idea of how we might approach it. So if you take one of those, and you also have it in the email. We know that Mike is not going to be here. He's at a conference, and Pat will be a bit late. Sit for you, Kevin. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we need a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting in August. It says July, in August. Correct that one.
Yeah, I made a couple of changes. Give me one moment here. Okay. And Barb, maybe you can make sure I got this right. The motion regarding the email survey.
I think the draft minutes that you had, John, said that that the DCOC was sending it out, and actually it was sent out by the staff.
Okay, so the minutes now read, a motion was made by Barbara Demarest stating that the BOT instructs staff to send out a donor email survey to all who contributed to the drive, asking standard questions about interactions with the station. The BOT will pilot the survey, and the CAB will be given the opportunity to provide input. Okay, and the other was regarding the Honesdale Studio fact-finding group. The report of the Honesdale Studio fact-finding group I have now, it now reads, Midge Maroney reported on the activities and meetings of the Honesdale Studio fact-finding group. Much discussion and debate followed about the charge of the Honesdale Studio fact-finding group and the best way to move forward.
There's something else, though, about the motion that,
Before you say
Before
that,
we go there?
anything on this language about,
Okay.
any other comments on the language there about the giving of reports?
Sounds fine.
Okay, great. All right, Midge. Okay, Midge.
You were going to add me.
yes, this motion, maybe I'm not understanding it clearly, but what was the purpose of this motion? Because I have looked at some bylaws, and quite frankly, I'm concerned not just about, last week, but we seem to be like rushing forward sometimes, and we may pass motions and then actions aren't taken, and I'm wanting to I've looked at the bylaws, so I want to look at this motion here because I have some questions with regard to our bylaws, but I want to make sure that I understand what this motion is supposed to be before I...
This is the motion in last month's.
Yeah, it says, a motion was made by Kevin Greff stating that charging the Honesdale fact-finding group to gather, analyze information about the current status of the WJFF Honesdale Studio, including usage, membership information, finances, and volunteer recruitment, to query the volunteers, to engage the CAB in this task, to describe to the BOT the process used in this task, and to present a set of options for the Honesdale Studio to the BOT no later than November 10th. 7 trustees voted in favor, 7 opposed. Motion did not pass. So my question is this supposed to be implying that the fact-finding group on Honesdale is eliminated? Is that what this is supposed to be saying?
That's the way I understood it.
Yeah.
I think that's
I
what
think so.
Sonia
And-
said right after after we took the vote, too.
So, all right, then I have to bring to your attention then that by the bylaws, the motion did not pass. So, I can point to you where the bylaws where it did not pass, but, my concern, quite sincerely, is that I don't want to become entangled in vitriol. I don't want to be entangled in emotional issues, which I think should be separated from the fiduciary issues, should be separated for us recognizing social good. It is a complex matter, this issue in Honesdale. I think that, I will explain if you want me to, why.
I think what we want to do is amend the minutes.
Okay,
to-
it
So
did
we
not
need a
pass.
language just on the
Alright.
text of the,
It did
and then
not-
we can discuss that
we can
in
just-
the,
But if you will allow me to point out, it did not pass because,
Well, it
We-
says that it did not pass.
it did not.
Did not
it
pass.
says
Yeah.
it. in
Yeah.
the-
Yes.
You know, so what I'm saying though, when you say it did not pass, I'm trying to understand, was the motion then to eliminate? My question is, was the motion to eliminate the Honesdale fact-finding group?
I believe the motion was to clarify the charge, to try to redo the charge, and it failed. That work group still exists.
Okay.
There's still, those, we didn't dissolve that, it still exists. We have, they don't, yeah, my understanding,
Put the whole thing on hold.
yeah. We,
So then if the Honesdale, fact-finding group still exists, then they can continue meeting.
yes.
Okay, because I think there was some confusion on that.
It was
And-
stated at the time, though it does not appear in a motion, so as such, it was not an action of the board. But Sonia had stated that that
Was the end.
was the end of the Honesdale fact-finding group at the time. Now, that did not, that did not happen within
And
the
that-
context of a motion, so.
And that the work would be deferred until we had a more comprehensive facilities plan in place.
Okay, then I'll go back and say to you that if you think that this motion was intended to eliminate the Honesdale fact-finding, it did not pass.
I think the motion was not, it was to continue the fact-finding group.
The
And that
motion was to-
continuation of the fact-finding group failed.
Was to give a charge to the
Yeah.
fact-finding committee, and it
Right.
failed.
Could I just point out that we had, this board had voted a charge to this group in its June meeting, in its July meeting, and then in its August meeting. So I'm not sure what your intention is in relation to amending the minutes, but I will point out that charges were assigned and voted by this, approved by this board for that group. So I'm not sure if this
Good point.
can overrule the charges that, I mean, we ended the June meeting, and then in July, after having approved the minutes that included the approval of a charge for the committee, we then considered another charge for the committee.
Good point.
And I think that there is a procedural issue here that the board really does have to address, that you cannot simply replace, propose motions that are, at least in some way of looking at it, dissolving the motions that you've already approved. So I'm not sure that this motion can undo the motions that were previous. Maybe someone else is up on Robert's rules or something similar to that.
I don't know about Robert's rules, but I think the net result of the motion, as I understood it, was to put everything on the back burner pending the strategic planning committee and to not do anything further at this time.
That's
And-
not what
and-
this motion says.
So
This
maybe,
motion-
I'm saying that
this
was the net
motion
result
just
of this
as-
motion.
I'm sorry, but that's not what this motion says.
so maybe we should bring
Well,
this
let's have
up
a new
where it
motion.
is in the agenda rather than
Let's have a new motion.
under minutes. But don't we have this
Yes.
later on?
Yes,
Let's finish up the
What we
minutes.
want to do is to pass the minutes, and then, because we can discuss this under old business. We need perhaps to put in a phrase like, there was some disagreement as to how this issue was resolved, and it will be, can we,
No.
no.
There's no question about what's here, right? So,
No.
so why don't we approve this and then
And then-
carry forward with the implications of it later?
Okay.
Okay.
So we have a motion from somebody to approve the minutes? Yeah,
As amended.
as amended.
amended.
That's the two amended. So seconded by Ann, and Ken. All right,
Do we vote?
and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
One abstained, okay. So the next item on the agenda is the agenda itself. Any changes we want to make to the agenda? We have a request, oh yes, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I believe at 8 o'clock, so I know we were going to talk about the,
back up?
we're going to talk at the very end.
Yeah, we have one item concerning how to handle difficult conversations, and so we'll move that up in a bit if we may. Two things I'd like to just remind us in reading over all the things that we're engaged in now, and indeed there are many things, but there are two things that are on the top of the list, and I would like to urge you, please, to focus your mind on the two things that are essential for us to do. One concerns being out of compliance with regulations, and that is we do not have enough members on our CAB. So my goal is that before this meeting is over, we have at least the required seven members that will be presented by TASA who've been vetted, and we vote to approve those. More is fine, but we have to have those. And the second one is that we have to have some kind of general directions about how to proceed with questions about the tower. And I've written up a summary, having Adam and I just yesterday and the day before talked with our county legislator, and we have some ideas on how to proceed. But we need sort of general approval for us to go forward and work hard on that before our meeting is over.
Just a question or
Yeah.
clarification. Having 4 members of our CAB, does that put us out of compliance with our bylaws or with regulations?
Bylaws.
'Cause we have 7.
Our bylaws call for 7 to 15.
Okay, but
So
we're
we're out.
not out of compliance
Well,
with regulations?
The CPB doesn't state numbers, though they do give recommendations.
Okay.
But we are out of compliance with our.
We're
We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Don't confuse the issue, no, we don't want to say that we're, particularly while we're on tape.
Okay, so agenda is
Delayed.
okay with folks, if we will move ahead, and shall we start with the reports?
I'm sorry, but I'm asking under revisions to the agenda. I had a motion which was to reconsider an agenda item from last meeting that was omitted.
Yes. Oh, the action about Jason's hiring?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And I don't know whether you, I mean, I had sent you that. I don't know if, is it on the agenda?
It's under old business, and
Okay.
have a look. Do you want to?
It's not there, at least in my copy, that if you send out another.
Okay, I had sent to the executive committee and I sent to the board today some necessary motions. I would recommend that because we are reconsidering an agenda item that was omitted from the last, is it there?
It is there.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so going forward, let's start with the finance. I guess you folks are meeting tonight.
Yes, the Finance Committee met this afternoon. We reviewed the profit and loss, the actual versus budget, and also this year versus last year. And we're making headway in better understanding where we are with this. We will be having some time, hopefully at the end of next week, with a couple of work sessions with Adam to do a reforecast. Where do we think we're actually going to end up the year versus budget, and also begin to do the work on planning next year's budget, and that will be more than one session's worth, but we'll get started. Urge anyone who's interested to join us. You'll know when that's scheduled to be. The main things that we just wanted to bring to your attention tonight, and the reports that we sent out were dated the 11th, so they're not absolutely up to date. But our benefit underwriting had a budgeted goal of $32,000. We had benefit income through the 11th of almost $14,000. So we've got, a significant shortfall there, and it's important to see that we can, come as close as possible, if not surpass the $32,000. Now, obviously, we had a wonderful fundraiser on Saturday, and I assume Adam will talk about that a little bit. We've got the music sale, the farm-to-table dinner, as well as a couple of other smaller events. but we really are gonna need to work hard on our benefit income line. Business underwriting is significantly behind budget. That's an item that perhaps was budgeted too high, and as we get into next year's budget, we'll be able to look at the historical trends going back 10 years ago. Probably business underwriting probably came in at this, even less than this $14,000 number. So that's something that maybe we want to make some significant changes in how we look at it in budgets going forward. The other thing is that we've got about $65,000 to do in membership, member dollars between now and the end of the year. We will have a fund drive in November, and we will be sending out a year-end ask. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to fulfill that $65,000. Again, it will be important for us to kind of all hands on deck. The survey that we sent out to donors, we've gotten a fairly significant result, back on that. So we'll need to put our best heads together for how to do the November drive to make it as successful as possible. Did anybody have any questions on the reports that were sent? And Larry and Ann, is there anything you want to add? Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask the President's attention? I want to go back to the previous agenda item, and this is based on the fact that at the last board meeting, we omitted an item on our agenda. And at least according to Robert's rules, what you do when that occurs, in order that it should happen in a timely fashion, is that you put it on the agenda at the first possible time of the meeting. So I would like to ask for a revision of the agenda to include motions.
That was the motion that's listed as number F.
That is the motion that was in the previous.
So if we could look at that one now on the list, I'll just.
It's not that we have to look at the motion, it's just putting it on the agenda. Because that is not the motion that I am bringing forward, that the committee has brought forward. I sent to 3 motions relative to the appointing. I'll read it. I sent it to all of you, I think today or yesterday. I sent to the executive committee last Friday, or the Friday before that. 3 motions relative to the appointing of employees and executions of letters of agreement. The first motion is that an agenda item be taken up at the September 17th, 2014 board meeting as unfinished business with quotes around it from August, right, it's up there, from the August 2014 meeting. The second is that the motion that the agenda item being taken up as unfinished business related to the hiring of Jason Dole as program director be amended to read, and that's the amended motion. And the third motion is related to the hiring and appointment of Adam Weinrich. So those are 3 motions that are being added as a result of some unfinished business. Okay?
So we will add those 3 motions, and where's best to address those? When we are talking about personnel, perhaps we could, all right, shall we do that? Unless there's an objection, we will.
Wherever it seems
Okay,
appropriate.
I think that,
I'm just trying as much as I can to follow what they say in Robert's rules. I know that we don't follow Robert's rules, but they do have conditions on things that are omitted from previous meetings.
all right. I didn't ask for any public comment because there wasn't really any public comment. I think of Andrea as being our staff. I mean, do you feel I slighted you?
I'm okay right now.
You're okay, thank you, I'm sorry. Okay, we finance, nominating and governance, anything to report?
The committee hasn't met.
The only report we have is that we're gonna kind of huddle and pick a time to meet. And we'll maybe do that at halftime here.
All right, and the next one would be personnel. Pardon?
Bingo.
Personnel, and let's do the motions in this one.
It sounds great. I did send you the draft minutes of the committee. I'm going to highlight some points for the group because I think that in our meeting, we developed, I think, a better understanding of how personnel and employee issues work at WJFF. The committee, and I'll just talk to you, right? The committee reviewed the personnel committee description as found in the bylaws, noting that the group deliberates and then recommends to the board. And it remains for the full board to take actions on any of the recommendations that are brought to the personnel committee. So the personnel committee does not take action on its own. We had, in addition to the charges that are in the bylaws, additional specific duties can be also assigned to us. And the president had sent the committee specific duties, and we reviewed them and we made priorities. The priority tasks included recommending terms in employee letters of agreement, recommending compensation and benefit packages, and determining employee review protocol. Employee job descriptions, the committee reviewed the 2 full-time employees' job descriptions and their relationship with the board and other committees. We reviewed documents related to the creation of the job description and the staffing organizational chart. We felt that that was important for us to understand exactly how our organization worked in terms of the relationships. During the process, which was a multi-month process in which the board had been deliberating about the staffing structure at WJFF, it was clear that a non-hierarchical structure of collaboration was preferred rather than top-down management, and the organizational chart and the job descriptions that were ultimately chosen emphasize this model, but with one employee, the general manager, in charge of daily operations and ultimately responsible and accountable for anything that happens at the station. The general manager and the program director job descriptions were seen to articulate the same pattern of working with committees and in consultation with the board. In terms of personnel and hiring, we noted that the general manager with the Board of Trustees hires, trains, evaluates, supervises, and schedules staff. We noted that the program director reports to the general manager and that the station engineer reports to the program director. In terms of evaluation, we noted that the general manager is evaluated by the board and that the bylaws state that the personnel committee is charged with employee evaluation. And then we further noted that the program director is evaluated as articulated in the job description by the general manager and development director and a board-appointed committee. So that's a joint evaluation. We then looked at the bylaws that we have and that were put into our new bylaws, Article 10, which cover the board's relationship with its employees. The bylaws state that the board is charged with both appointing and removing employees. It further states that the board may remove employees with or without cause. Employees at WJFF are therefore at-will employees, and that's important for our employees to know and for the board to know. So any offer that we make are subject to our bylaws. Even though we recommend a 1-year appointment, our bylaws state that these are our at-will employees. In terms of compensation and benefits, which we've been charged with by the board president to determine by this meeting, we determined that the bylaws actually restricted how we can come to a decision about compensation and benefits. And briefly stated, you need to do a comparative study with other nonprofits. You have to have advance approval and by disinterested parties, and you have to do documentation that's supposed to be contemporaneous with the actual employee actions. So the committee noted that we, while a draft letter of agreement had been made up for our existing employee, Adam, it had never been executed. So there was a draft, there were recommendations by our lawyer, but an actual executed letter of agreement had not been achieved. And I, contacted both Adam and Sonia to determined that that was indeed true. Because it put another additional task in front of the committee, because the committee had thought that we were just doing Jason's, and now we feel that we need to do both. There were some recommendations, which I don't need to go into in terms of the actual conditions. What we felt was the highest priority for our committee was to draft letters of agreement that we could bring to the board to be acted on tonight. And that these letters of agreement would retain the salary figures that had already been determined, and the basic benefits package, which was from our determination, the health and the 401k. That those are two standard, things that the existing employee had that we want to offer to the new employee. Our plan is for the Personnel Committee to study 4 comparable nonprofits, and we chose those, there being Blue Hill Community Public Radio Station, the Catskill Arts Society, the Delaware Valley Arts Alliance, and Wayne County Public Library. We were looking for established organizations in our community. The basic recommendation that we had was to revisit the omitted action from last board meeting, because that action is necessary to comply with our bylaws in terms of approving appointments. To draft the preliminary letters of agreement, and then prior to the next meeting, come back to you next time with a more complete, for you and for the employees, a more complete list of the benefits that will accrue to these positions. We came to agreement on the basic text for those employee agreement letters, and we came to the decision that we had to make certain motions in order to regularize the process and bring us to a good starting place for creating a comprehensive personnel policy and practice. And that is the report. Do other members of the committee have anything to add or to clarify?
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Just in terms of sick days, vacation days, is that going to come next month too? Okay.
That's exactly right.
Great.
And I think it says here, well, maybe we weren't explicit, but everything other than those issues is
What's next?
is what obviously had been discussed, but never got down on a piece of paper for you to sign, for us for the board to
Okay.
sign, et
I
cetera.
just want to make sure that's part of what we're.
Absolutely.
Good, okay.
Vacation, sick, compensatory time. I mean,
I had 2 questions.
uh-huh.
The comp organizations that you chose, the first one, Blue Hill,
It's the Blue Hill Community Radio Station. It went on the air. It's in Maine. And it's a community public radio station that went on the air at exactly the same time that we did.
Similar size and shape?
Absolutely.
yeah, I was just wondering, because it's not local, maybe the organization out of Greene and Columbia County would be a better comp?
They're difficult because they're a subset of a larger
Oh, they
arts
are.
organization, so employees there are actually employees of
Yeah.
this.
I'm just a little
wave
reluctant
form.
to see somebody that's not a local organization in that mix.
And having another radio station would be important.
Yeah. that's-
Yeah, their employees face some of the same kinds of issues with fund drives and, where their efforts get concentrated and they have comp time accrued and things. So
And
as part of the picture, I think
yeah,
they're quite good.
John already has investigated, and they responded more quickly than anybody local did. And they also have a personnel policy that we will be looking over as a model for ours, because it is a model. It is a model.
The other question was, you were referring to terms, and my understanding is that our employees are at-will employees, so why would we be specifying a term? Or even
this-
calling the letter, the offer letter an agreement? That's,
It's a letter of agreement, and that is my understanding, is that was the terminology that was suggested by the lawyer in contrast to a contract. They are not contractual, but again, committee members assist me here if I'm not incorrectly stating this, but the committee really was concerned at the idea that we're announcing to our employees that they're at will and they can be hired and fired at with or without cause, that we wanted to give some level of stability. And Peter suggested that we follow the model that is followed in academic institutions for substitute appointments or temporary appointments, that you're offered an annual, I don't want to say we would say the word contract, but you're offered an annual appointment. You're appointed for an annual period, for a set period. The presumption is that you're going to continue to work during that set period, but as academics know, at any time, they always have the fine print that says according to whether the budget can allow. So we felt that this was giving a level of job security to the people that we were bringing on board, while keeping language in there that says that anything that we offer to them is conditioned upon on what is in our bylaws.
Yeah, I just think that having a term and following an academic model is in, contradiction to at-will employment. And I'd like to suggest, I've been reading our directors and officers policy, and they have a lot of what you're covering in that are doing anything wrong as far as employees are concerned. They have a hotline consulting to make sure that you're retaining the distinction of at-will employees. And I'd like to suggest that we make use of that, consulting from our insurance company before we, finalize that language.
And who are these people we should refer with?
It's our insuring, the company that insures us in our D&O policy.
I just, to respond, I'm trying to understand that being an at-will employee is not inconsistent with having an appointment for a period of time. If so, I don't think academic institutions could offer such appointments, and they do. They do all the time. So I'm not seeing it as inconsistent, and in the draft that Sonia provided, and maybe Sonia, you could get that, you would confirm this, which I believe Lori had looked at, is that correct? Because it said she was recommending a term and she was recommending an at-will. So our lawyer didn't seem to think there was any consistency.
Well, I'm not an employment lawyer.
I understand.
I don't know if that's Lori's expertise, but I would think that it would, be worthwhile to make a phone call to Jackson Lewis and see if they have any viewpoint on it, since they're the ones who are insuring us against any wrongful acts.
It would be nice if we could move ahead on this. I mean, because I think we want to give the staff that we rely so much on some sense that some of this is moving forward. What if we just took out the 1 year for now and just said you're at-will employees, and we could amend that when we address the benefit package?
Well,
So that we have something now.
Maybe that's a good solution, because we are going to be amending these letters. But I think the committee felt uncomfortable with the idea that we had an employee who had been working since January of this year with no assurance or legal basis for his employment. So we felt a certain urgency to make this happen sooner rather than later. And if we are coming back to the next board meeting with a revision that will include the benefits, at that time we could adjust our letter based on the opinion of our liability lawyer firm, insurance firm. Does that make sense to people?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of makes sense to me.
Any disagreement on that?
Well, just a question, if you were, if for some unfortunate reason that you based your benefits on a yearly program, and some unfortunate reason that they had to be terminated before that, it would be a prorating of the benefits, I imagine, right?
In terms of benefits, yes.
Okay.
I mean, that would be the case. But I don't think any of us foresee that. But yes, I mean, your benefits traditionally would cease at the time of your year-end of termination of employment. I'm not an employment lawyer either, but,
So what is the revision, or what is the change?
the revision is, well, we have 3 motions, and then I also included in my email to all concerned the letters of appointment or letters of agreement for both employees.
Okay, so can we start with the first motion?
Sure. The first motion is that an agenda item be taken up at the September 2014 board meeting as, quotes, unfinished business from August 2014 meeting. And the August 2014 board agenda item reads, item E, programming position hiring. First, recommendations from the committee. Second, move, the Board of Trustees of WJFF Radio Catskill approves the hiring of Jason Dole as Program Director and authorizes the station manager and hiring committee to enter into negotiations for salary and benefits up to the previously approved amount. So this motion, just as explanation, is to simply reinsert the item as it appeared in the last agenda because it was omitted without any action by the board.
Okay, so we have that motion on, so you're making that motion.
I am,
And,
on behalf of the programming, excuse me, the personnel committee.
On for the personnel, and it's seconded by Mitch. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed, abstained, and unanimously, okay, what's?
I abstain.
You abstained, okay, Barbara abstained. To hire Jason, okay.
Okay, and the second motion, and this is a motion that I'm offering at the advice of, or the request of Mike Fisher, who is a member of the Personnel Committee, and it is an amendment to that item which has just been added to our agenda, and that is the motion that the agenda item being taken up as, quotes, unfinished business related to the hiring of Jason Dole as Program Director be amended to read. The Board of Trustees of WJFF Radio Catskill approves the hiring of Jason Dole as Program Director and appoints him as such with a letter of agreement dated September 17th, 2014, and to be executed by the signatures of the Board President and the employee as of this date.
You made the motion on behalf of the committee, and it's seconded by
Second?
Midge. Any discussion?
How is this
How
different
is it
from the
different?
first?
It differs by
The-
stating that the
And why we have?
Board of Trustees approves the hiring
Can you scroll down a little bit, John, so we can see them both at one time?
with a letter of agreement dated and to be executed by the signatures of the board president and the employee as of this date, which is different than authorizes the station manager and the hiring committee to enter into negotiations for salary and benefits up to the previously approved amount. It moves the locus of the action from the station manager and the hiring committee to the board, which is what is stated in our bylaws. The board approves and appoints employees.
So this
That's
one
the
will
difference.
enable me to sign this agreement as of the 17th, that Jason is our program director. We have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion?
Can the peanut gallery ask a question?
Sure.
If the letter is dated September 17th, that's not the start of employment?
This is a delicate issue because obviously you would prefer that it were happening prior to the hiring. At this moment, the personnel committee was dealing with a process that needed to be normalized. And this is the personnel committee's normalization. So yes, the date, September 17th, for instance, the committee discussed, what about when we put in the, and you'll see it in the letters, we put in a 6-month and an annual evaluation. Yes, it does mean that the 6-month and the annual evaluation will start as of this date.
As
September.
I think
Correct.
we could, I mean, it's certainly more significant in terms of a discrepancy of time
Yeah.
for Adam.
Mhm.
Couldn't the letter say, you know, with, you know, tenure in the position as of whatever the date was when Jason started and when Adam was appointed general manager?
Could say benefits accrue from.
Yeah, benefits
from this
accrue
date.
or with tenure as of.
Tenure,
I
don't
think
like
we
that
want
word.
to, we can consider that for the next letters that have to be drafted. But the idea of contemporaneous that's in our bylaws suggests that it should be contemporaneous. And it's not, so we're trying to normalize it. Do you have the letters? Yeah, the letters that were, so that you'll see a sample of the letters, and I think I sent it to you all. I did send it to you all, attached to that email.
It just strikes me as unfair that, you know, the anniversary date or, you know, whatever kind of benefits may accrue, you know, how many vacation days or whatever.
Nothing that we're doing is taking away any benefits from any current employees.
So what
or
I'm saying is
alter.
if you get a bump, you know, typically, you know, you get a bump in vacation time after, you know, so many years.
Mhm.
If we've just, you know, moved the starting date, that doesn't strike me as fair.
Well, in the case of our current, can I just personalize it? Sorry, Adam, this is really uncomfortable.
Oh, go to it.
Okay, in the case of Adam, since Adam has been working since when?
2009?
2009, there is, that would be his start date, and he's been covered by the same benefits as far as I'm sure, as far as I know.
Unless there's any difference in benefits that we decide to award to a general manager as opposed to a assistant, whatever he was before.
That could possibly be the case, but since we are going to be bringing this back to the board, it seems to me that we could address that issue, that concern.
We have the letter concerning Jason on front of us.
Well,
And-
I've got Adams up top, up
Could
here.
you just add my name to your spell check so it takes one little red squiggly?
I noticed, I kept saying, my
There's
spelling
no
is
use
wrong.
an employee like that.
Okay.
Oh, we do have Kashekton
Okay, do
spelled
you want me
wrong.
to read this? It simply says, for those who are somewhat, did I spell Coshecton wrong? What else is new? WJFF Radio Catskill offers full-time employment to Adam Weinreich as General Manager, Development Director. Salary compensation will continue at current level. Medical benefits will continue at the current level. 401k will continue at the current level. Term of employment is 1 year renewable, subject to Board of Trustees bylaws and a 6-month and annual evaluation. The Personnel Committee will address additional benefits subsequent to conducting the comparison study required by the bylaws. We tried to put in there language that would carry through the benefits and the salary that has been agreed upon, and that assures the employees that additional benefits will be included, but that we need to follow the bylaws in the manner in which we add those benefits.
I have a
Does
question.
anybody else from the Personnel Committee want to say, my mouth's getting dry?
I have a question about the phrase current level, and I wonder, you know, I've just been seeing more and more how important it is to have solid, clear numbers and words on paper when you go look back at things, and, you know, is there a reason not to put specific figures there?
The reason was only because, in order to.
Just to sort of expedite?
Privacy.
Oh, privacy.
You know, just, I think that was the reason, or maybe it was because we didn't know what it was.
Public employees
Yeah.
have to have their salaries
Okay.
included in their
You actually didn't know.
appointment
You
letter.
actually
We didn't know,
didn't
we
know.
didn't know, we didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's,
And
good,
so
thank you.
whether we're public employees or not, I think probably that's the process we should follow.
The standard
Okay.
we should set ourselves to, because we're very open.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
organization.
then we have to ask for, literally, the committee was, because the discussion on these matters was held in executive session, and because there were no minutes of executive session, and because no members of the committee who were at the executive session were able to recall the exact
Data.
figures,
Yeah.
We were working with something that would work, you know? So but we can amend this at this
Should
moment.
you is the question, I mean, I don't know,
I think, you know, as you said, kind of being able to go back and see with clarity
Yeah.
makes sense. And
Okay.
I could treat it like.
So are we,
Okay.
Peter?
I suggest that we approve the language of the letter as drafted, and just between the board and the employee, the amounts are substituted. I don't wish to know
right, we put that, when we
what-
print out the letter, we'll put the
what the
amount.
salary is, and I don't think 14 or 15 people need to know that, you know, it doesn't need to be public information.
Well, the fact of the matter is, if indeed
is.
public money's involved, it's all foilable.
It's all flow,
Well, and then also,
But-
once we see in our budget, we're gonna see roughly how much is allocated.
Anybody
And we're
can-
gonna
could
disclose
figure
it
it
on
out.
our
That
line
figure.
90s.
I understand that.
Yeah.
That's a different case than splashing it up on a screen at a
But I
meeting on
agree,
a
we
Wednesday
should
night
just,
with the employee present. I think that lacks taste and tact. And
Okay,
makes me-
so-
it would make me uncomfortable. I don't think it's necessary.
even though it would be at a later time very public.
I agree.
Okay.
I
May
understand
I
that.
Amend it to say
Can we
that when
amend
it's
it,
typed
or
up,
someone
we-
else amend it? I don't think I can amend my own motion, can I?
Okay, Pete, you're
Can-
making a motion to amend it and include the salary amount when it's written and printed for the signature of.
Correct.
Mary, and who's seconding that one? Yes, Joel seconded that motion
And
to,
are we taking out the term, or we're leaving that in for now?
I think we're leaving that in for now. And, because we have the opportunity, after speaking with the insurance lawyer, and also adding this so it's definitely one employee thing in one place, benefits, you know, vacation, the whole shebang. Okay, we've had that, we have an amendment to the motion. Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment? Okay, any opposed or that it passes? Now, the motion as amended, I call for a vote on that. All in favor of the motion as amended?
Can you clarify what I'm writing and trying to listen and
The
write?
amendment is that the salary, the amended motion will be, the salary amount
Okay,
will
so we
include it in
approve the
membership.
initial motion as written.
We are now
and a
voting to
second
approve the
amendment.
original motion.
Don't we just vote on an
The truth
amendment?
is that the motion is simply that we are approving the hiring and appointing him with a letter of agreement. There are no specifics about the letter of agreement. This is the attachment, so it really actually is not related to the main motion.
So the letter of agreement that's gonna be held private, or that's gonna be made public?
We have just discussed the letter of agreement, and we've had a motion to amend the letter, right?
This is the letter of agreement?
It is.
And then we will put in amount of salary into this letter when it's signed for the assurance. That's what we've just agreed, if I got it right. Okay, and we voted on that, I do believe, so we should go on to the Adam letter, okay?
Third motion. The Board of Trustees of WJFF Radio Catskill approves the hiring of Adam Weinreich as general manager and appoints him as such with a letter of agreement dated September 17th, 2014, and to be executed by the signatures of the board president and employee as of this date. Of this date. I left out as of this date.
Okay, we have a motion from Anna, Personnel Committee, seconded by Joel, okay. Any discussion about this letter?
This authorized, no, the letter?
Yeah, this is the letter on Adam's security of his position as general manager. If there's no discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes. Is there one more? No, that's it. Okay. Okay. You know, it just, there are so many smaller personnel things that we didn't have in good order, and we're really moving in the right direction this way. It'll make our life much easier for those who come after us. So thanks to the Personnel Committee for work on these very difficult tasks. Why don't we take one more report, and then we're going to go on to this topic that Joel has a special interest in, and that would be the development and community outreach, and that's...
Okay, there was a report that I sent to everyone of the activities and discussions of the committee, and supplemented that today with an email to you all. There are two resolutions or motions
Yes.
that I want to bring up tonight. The first is to form a 25th anniversary work group to be open to volunteers and members. And I would consider all of us to be among the volunteers. So I would like to propose that we formulate that work group.
Do we know what we want them to do?
Plan the 25th anniversary celebration.
Okay. Can we put that in the motion? And do we,
The approves the organization of a 25th anniversary work group to be open to volunteers and members.
And charged with
And
planning.
charged
And
with-
charged with planning the 25th
yeah,
anniversary celebration.
and, right, I would go so far as to say, and come back to the board with a plan by a certain day.
No, don't say that.
Too much? Okay. All right. Too much, all right.
Is it worth adding something
Yes,
in? You know, I'm just thinking of maybe long time prior WJFF staffers, board members, volunteers who may no longer be volunteers or even necessarily members. Do we want to, you know, because in this it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's only open to people who volunteer
Volunteers,
time or money
members.
to us, basically.
Past board members.
Yeah,
Well,
prior
we could just say to
employees.
be open to any interested individual.
Yes.
In
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Okay?
Well, I would say that Adam's revision there is more consistent with what the discussion at the committee meeting, that we were actually planning to, and thought it was important that we reach out to all of the staff members previous, over the 25-year period, staff members, volunteers, and members.
That includes previous BOT members.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Volunteers to the core.
Okay, we have a motion.
Can we, let's just make sure we got this right, to be open to past and present volunteers,
And listen.
members,
And BOT.
board members, trustees, we'll say.
And staff members.
Yeah, trustees and staff.
To,
To plan.
Well, any
The
other
25th
interested
anniversary.
parties, you can put that in there?
Well, don't we also want to say though, in other interested parties, because we won't restrict ourselves, there may be someone who comes forward who.
Out of the woodwork, who
Yeah.
knows, yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you, before volunteers, why don't you just insert listeners?
Right.
Oh, good.
Yes.
What if,
I want to plan the party, but I hate
Also,
listening to you.
How about the word present too? So you don't need the word present in there.
So I feel my
And you can say
textual
listeners,
criticism
that
come
means
back.
you don't have to be a current.
Past and present is
volunteer.
fine. So, do I have a
is it
second?
a celebration or a
Yes, I-
party?
Second?
Okay.
Barbara makes the motion, I second it. And any discussion? All in favor?
When is their anniversary?
Any,
by the
next
way?
year?
Next year.
It's, any
And-
opposed? It passes, yes.
And so immediately we'll begin to publicize an open, come with your ideas planning meeting at Hills on October 18th at 11 o'clock.
And Barbara, I think the sense of the meeting is go for it. And every step along the way, we're not expecting you to come back and say, well, we're thinking of this plan and we're,
I can't manage this one too.
no, I know.
There'll be someone else giving a report on that. Okay, the second one is a capital campaign. Along with the 25th anniversary celebration, we believe that it is a good opportunity to conduct a capital campaign to have fundraising for some particular infrastructure kind of items to be determined by the Board of Trustees. But we believe that it's important now to begin educating ourselves in how to conduct a capital campaign and the overall, familiarization and the very beginnings of planning. And we're hoping to make some use of Ken's daughter, Meg, who is a professional fundraiser, in beginning to learn about that. Now, at the committee meeting, there were, this was a split vote. Some members of the group abstained, I think, feeling that this was premature. But I think that this is gonna take a good deal of legwork, and if we wanna be ready to be up and running in 2015, to do this, I think that we need to begin the education and planning effort now. So I would propose that the BOT approves the formulation of a capital campaign work group to begin work and appoints the following members. And I leave it open as far as who the board would appoint as the members.
A second?
Second.
Martin, any discussion?
Do we need to name these members before we vote on
We could
this?
just say, you know, and we'll appoint the members.
Well, we have to appoint them today?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
we should. Or we,
Question, because I'm just really not sure how we're approaching this, because, I think we know at the top of the capital campaign, if that's where it belongs, is our tower. Because if we need money, I mean, we need to focus, I think that's an important issue, so I'm just not sure, if we don't have to do some more, background work or something before we get into actual,
I don't, we're not at a point yet to say how much we want to raise and what we want to raise it for. I think that work is, you know, needs to be done kind of in parallel by the facilities group and the strategic plan and all that kind of stuff. But I think in terms of starting to get up to speed and how do you conduct a capital campaign, I think we need at least a couple people starting to think about that and work on that.
well, I guess what my question is there anything that's like, that comes before a capital campaign, like?
Feasibility.
Well, the capital campaign wouldn't necessarily be launched for months and months. It may not be launched, doesn't have to be launched at any time, because usually when people make a capital campaign, they have a whole series and their launch date is, you know, a year ahead of time, and they get everything in order and what exactly they're gonna ask for, who they're gonna ask it from, stuff like that, and
There's
what kind of publicity are you gonna have around it. So you have your launch date, which may be sometime in the future.
So Barb, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sort of sounds like you're saying, rather than, not let's start a capital campaign, but let's start investigating what it's gonna take to do a capital campaign.
Exactly. Yeah,
Begin the
a
groundwork.
planning group.
Pat?
Yeah, on the strategic, sorry, I was late, I just was sitting in the back room because I was late. On the strategic plan though, that we're working, I'm assuming that part of that is gonna be coming up with a needs assessment, which
Yeah, and
then
that
puts the-
melds into this.
builds the capital
Right.
campaign or what we're
Yes.
gonna do. So maybe it's just a matter that we wanna start a group that gets trained
It's
on how to run a capital campaign.
exactly.
That's
Rather
That's
than
it.
forming a capital campaign
Right.
right now, we're gonna start some research
Yes.
on establishing a capital campaign sometime in the near future.
Could I speak, because I am a member of the committee, and I was one of the members who abstained from voting for this. And the basis of my abstention and my holding back of support is simply that my sense that the board is overtaxed with tasks right now. And I think, Adam, you brought up at the meeting the idea of a dilution of our fundraising in other areas. We just heard we had a finance committee meeting today. We're feeling the strain of meeting our goals. And we have a multitude of work groups going and a multitude of committees. And I am concerned that we're spreading ourselves really too thin, and that starting work on thinking or planning or using resources like the consultants, you know, who are going to come and talk to us about their expertise in different areas, that it's more important for us to focus on basic issues like our membership or our events or on-air drive, that we're really relying on doing very, very well by the end of the year, rather than diverting our attention and our energies into planning a capital campaign.
Maybe the question would be, if we were to do this, who of you would like to work on it? Who would have the time to?
But I would respond by
That
saying,
why?
Sonia, that you know,
I don't
it's a question of how much energy there is on the board level, to my view. And I also would say that, and I am a consultant who's worked with libraries who are planning capital campaigns and fundraising, that often something like the 25th anniversary is your opportunity to gather the enthusiasm and the people around that you're not thinking about right now, who will then become part of this capital campaign planning. And that's the time to bring the consultants in to talk to them rather than to us, the board members who are trying to do all the other things that we need to do in relation to the station.
My only-
Some of some of these questions may be addressed when we do the report on the strategic plan, so
Okay.
some of those things
I
might.
don't disagree with anything that Ann just said. The 25th anniversary is a very unique opportunity for us to run a capital campaign. And I don't think, that's our time frame. And we can either be ready when 2015 rolls around to be able to create a plan, or we can start thinking about it then. I don't think starting to think about it then is a good idea.
I think it would be,
I'm thinking that along the line of what Ann said, that we have so much on our plate, and I have to say that I'm happy to pat us on the back, because I think we had a really challenging year last year, and we accomplished a lot. And I think when we found disagreements, we were able to work through them. And I think we did a tremendous load last year. I think we also have a lot more ahead of us, which is why I would like to back that up a little bit. I think our 25th anniversary is tremendous. I think perhaps part of the reason that we have and I think it's an embarrassment that we didn't have Adam's paperwork and Jen's in the right way, It's like, it's awkward. Yeah, Peter, you're right. There were some awkward things here. And I think that the reason those things happened is because, as well-meaning as we are, we're human beings and we're all consumed with other things. And I think this is a really important matter, and I would like us to just go a little bit more slowly, because.
Okay, well, let's have a vote on it, because I think it's either whether we've had the motion and it's been seconded. Yes, was it seconded?
I'm not sure.
Motion was made by
Yeah,
Barbara.
I believe Martin seconded.
yeah, I think.
Martin seconded, and we had discussion, and we'll have a vote. All in favor of this motion to create
Group to investigate.
a group to investigate the nuances of a capital campaign in the future.
As Barb submitted it, the motion reads, the board, DOT approves the formation of a capital campaign work group to begin work and appoints the following members.
But we're taking out appoints the following, or are we?
We can do that as a second step if you want, but if we're going to do it, appointing committees and then not staffing them doesn't really get you anywhere.
Doesn't get you anywhere, so shall we put some names into the motion as is? Who is willing to come forward to work on this?
Okay, we'll work on it.
Barbara and Ken, okay, that's good. All right, all in favor of this motion as presented? One. Any opposed? Two opposed, one abstention on my part.
Did
It
you
passes.
get Kevin?
And Kevin, you're abstaining? Opposed, so I think it passes.
Wait,
then.
what was the vote count? Was that?
Pat, I didn't hear you. 4, 9, 4, and 2 noes, 3 noes and 1 abstention, so it passes. Okay, I'd like to take the liberty of just taking another item because we have some personnel issues. I'd like to talk about the strategic plan and about tough issues, and it's the two of you. Shall we start with the strategic plan meeting that you? There's one missing, Fisher.
All right, last week, Joel and I met with Helen Boudreaux and Denise Frangipani about creating a strategic plan. And pretty much what they said that they would do is they would facilitate, I sent the notes of what we came up with. At our outreach meeting, Ann gave me a copy of a 2004 strategic plan that the station had already put together. So in the notes that I sent you was a summary of that strategic plan. I don't know if you can pop it up.
Yeah.
One of the things that came out of the meeting as we looked at it was that a lot of what was in that original plan, we had already been moving towards working forward on. And they suggested that as a board, we revisit those items that we saw as the need that the station needed to work towards, and the tactics that were already in place. And some of the things that from 1990 to 2004, those are the things that that plan said that was already accomplished. You know, so there, you can see there was quite a bit that was done. There was quite a few things that were not done that was in the plan. So in order for them to move forward with working with us, we would need to give them the dates that they would be meeting with us. And they gave us a list of things that they needed in order to move forward. I don't know if I need to read all of that, because you looked at it and you saw it. And they wanted a calendar of what we were doing so far with our fundraising, copy of the bylaws, the surveys that we have been using, and if we did any analysis of those surveys, our organizational chart, personnel, the committee structure, the list of the board members with contact information, and our operational budget if the 990, I think that was the tax thing, and a mission statement, and that would help them plan how they were going to do the planning session with us. And initially, we'd be meeting just for a couple of hours in either at one of our board meetings, but we kind of agreed that to do a strategic plan, it should be more than the board members. And one of the things that came up was, how do you want to do it? Do you want to do a strategic plan meeting initially with just the board members, one with the volunteers, and one with the listeners, and then bring everybody together? Or do you want to bring everybody together in one meeting? And that's some of the decisions that we would have to make to bring back to them in order to determine how they're going to put together a workshop or meeting for us to move forward. So they gave us a homework assignment, and that was some of the things that we were just talking about. What are the things that we need to focus our attention on? And I think if we do that before we actually sit with them, it'll really expedite a lot of the time and a lot of the dialogue and how we're going to use their time. They said they were doing it gratis, but they would like to be compensated for, whatever travel or,
Duplicating costs.
Paper, the clerical stuff that
Joe,
they had to do.
scroll up for just a second. There's the homework assignment. I just want to get a better look at that.
4 things to be done. I think it'd be fascinating to answer some of those questions. It
Yeah.
would be a great way of looking back. It could help us think about the 25th anniversary. We would find old things that were innovations and contacts of people. I mean, I'd love to work on that with a few other people in with a glass of wine and a few papers and cheese or whatever.
That would facilitate.
She's raising her hand. We know Pat, okay.
So is your suggestion that each one of us individually complete the homework assignment? Put
No,
everything at the top of the paper?
I think it's like a brain melt, like if everybody
Oh, okay, group-
does the assignment, a group thing, and we don't necessarily have to do it together, but if everybody, and then we overlap the duplicates, so that when we get with them, we're not doing it at that point, because we want to use the best use of their time, because it sounds like originally the process was a 2-hour meeting, and then 2 day-long meetings that took place, I think were like a month apart. So, and hopefully we can have the whole process at least started before the end of the year, so that we can consider some of the things like the 25th anniversary, the capital campaign.
I'm sorry, I didn't get, are you saying that each of us would answer these questions, or we all do it together?
We do it.
We do some things together, all right. So
no.
how are you proposing we start that?
Tonight, you mean?
No, not
What-
tonight.
What format, what plans do you?
What's the first step that we?
Well, we're gonna be meeting with them again next week. And the first step, I think, would be you tell me how you want me to tell them that we're gonna meet.
Do we
You
want
know,
the
we're
big
gonna
group? Do we want the small group?
Oh, okay.
Stuff like
You
that.
know, I know it's important that everybody be a part of it, not just the Board
So
of
you're
Trustees.
recommending we have one group meeting?
Yeah,
I like that much better.
yeah.
Like at the Hills when we had.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
recommend that
group.
one group.
But how do we go about answering these 4 questions so something is given to them?
Well, I just asked, is everyone agreed that one group is the best approach to go immediately into one group?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know, I mean, I
Is that
kinda
too
like
many
the idea,
people?
well, I kind of like the idea of working in small groups and then maybe going around and sharing some of the ideas, I mean.
Crossing off the duplicates and
Well,
underlining
you know,
them,
maybe,
or-
but I don't know, I mean, I think it could get, it's a lot to just do one big group. I might, you know, but I know you have a tight deadline if you're gonna meet with them. I don't
Midge,
know.
I think
have a
I
tight
think
net.
she will, I think that Helen and Denise will coordinate that, and my guess is that we will work in small groups. But the question is, should this assignment, should these questions be answered solely by us, or should solely by volunteers, or solely by listeners,
Listeners.
however they might be defined,
And
or
then-
should there be a collection of those groups?
Okay, then I misunderstood what the question was, because my understanding is what you were asking was whether or not we should meet first as a large group, or whether we should
My-
meet in group,
The
pockets.
question is, the question is, should we meet as 3 entities, the board, the volunteers, and then the listeners? And because everybody has different needs and everybody has a different point of view. Or should all 3 of the entities meet in some bigger setting?
To answer these questions?
Yeah.
I think, you
How
know,
about both?
the identify sort of stuff, I mean, that's kind of like, you know, it's either yes or no, it's been done, or it hasn't been done, or it's been done a bit. The things like the issues, I think that's very much, you know, that's not fact, that's opinion and, you know, envisioning.
Well, that's why I
The-
would see it as a great
On
thing that.
the strategic plan of 2004, is that a long document? Is that like,
Well, I made
30
a summary of it, and
30
it's pretty,
pages?
pretty
We
good.
sent the summary to
I
you.
think the
Yeah.
summary,
We
this
could
is
digitize it and put it on.
Yeah.
this is the original
wow.
plan, and, yeah.
But there's boilerplate and things on it that
Yeah, and
it's
that's what,
pithy in
that's
some
what the
parts.
summary that you
Yeah,
received.
I think what they're trying to tell us here is we should review the 2004 plan and come up with some issues
Yeah.
before we come to the meeting, so, right? So when we go to the meeting, we'll have reviewed individually the 2004 plan, and hopefully we'll come up with our,
You got Pat in the back.
we'll each have our idea of what our list of pressing issues are.
Okay, Pat?
Isn't there a way that we can do this in the format of a questionnaire, like we did with the, Survey Monkey or something? Put it out there, do a homework assignment, attach the 2004 strategic plan. Ask them to list their top 10. I think there's gonna be a lot of overlap. If we have a spreadsheet, we can put them in there and code them on a spreadsheet, and at least get some information back from our membership, our volunteers, our membership, and our board, and then put together a group to collate it and come up with an idea. Because it seems like there's 4 questions, there's 4 things. Read the plan, give us your top 10, identify what's been accomplished, and then identify what the issues are.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's not rocket science here, but maybe we could put it in the form of a Survey Monkey and send it out to people who will respond if they care to, and start there. At least,
But are you suggesting that we wouldn't have meetings then in which we were interacting with one
No,
another?
I didn't say that.
I'm asking,
I
I'm
didn't
asking
say
Pat.
that. I said, start with that.
Yeah, that's
Start with getting as many people as you can, and then have a meeting and go over some of the results that you got on the survey result, and
Yeah.
then work from there.
Yeah,
And
I
that-
understand.
Yeah, that's apart from
I guess
the
I was just
actual-
misunderstanding what you were saying
Okay.
when you,
And
Yeah.
then we'll sit and begin the strategic plan
Mhm.
with Helen and Denise.
I
Because
guess my
that will
question
give
is,
them-
who's we?
That's, There you go.
Who's we? Is it us, or is this the larger group?
I put that to the board.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
let's answer that one.
Yeah.
If we follow Pat's idea that we make a kind of survey monkey related to the 10 issues, that lends itself. That could be,
10 issues.
to identify 10 pressing issues. The second one, right? The list of current pressing issues.
Well, and also I think it'd be really easy to put on the, what has been, here's the list, item 1 on the 2004 operating vision, has the station accomplished this? Yes, maybe no, or, and then again, all the items from the tactics, has the station accomplished this? Yes, maybe no, and that survey should make it very easy to see.
So it's like 6 pages of
Yeah.
items, that operating, that summary of it, so that's a lot of
So we'll lose
something to
some
go
people
through.
halfway through the monkey.
Yeah, we'll lose them before they get to
They
the
will.
coffee pot upstairs
Can we
line.
use ourselves as guinea pigs, we do what you, the donor survey we did, we
Yeah, send it to
created
the
a
board.
survey monkey, we sent it to the board, we refined as a result of that.
Your suggestion is that we do these ourselves and see.
No, my suggestion is that we, yes.
Test it.
Yeah, test it out.
Test it out on us before we're sending it to the unsuspecting public.
Okay.
Survey will take no more than 30
Do
minutes.
that, Adam, like for the first one? Okay, so maybe we could ask Adam, and we'll be the guinea pigs in however way you want to feed us, whatever, and we will dutifully do it as quickly as possible.
And maybe we could also put the digitized version of the strategic plan up somewhere where we could all get to it.
Well, that's step 1 is review, so.
Yeah, and without the other stuff, why we did this and all this, I'm sure a lot of things that do not have to be included.
Oh, the summary, right,
Yeah.
not the plan
Not
itself.
summary so much, but just the text part. The tactics stage, yeah.
What the summary is I read through it and I just highlighted the critical points so that you didn't have to do what I had to do, was read the whole thing, I just pulled the highlights out of it. This is the cliff notes.
And their homework assignment is review the cliff notes, not
Yes.
review the
Review
plan.
the cliff notes, yeah.
But have we got that digitized online?
It can be if
Yes.
you want to.
Okay.
Have it digitized.
No, but we can.
I can digitize
Yeah, that's
it
easy enough.
easily, I'll
Yeah.
put it right next to the CAB minutes from 1987 to 2014.
Okay.
I've got the system down.
Good, okay.
Okay, and then
It
maybe
works.
could we do this by the next meeting? Answer these? Could.
Yeah, I could.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll all
If you
complete it
want,
by,
yeah,
okay.
it's like, yep, survey can be-
And then, shall we table the idea of what the next step is until we've gotten this
And
much?
you're gonna be meeting
Ken.
with
We'll be
Helen
meeting
and
with them
Denise.
next week.
I'm just wondering, should we just kind of work on blocking out some time, because everybody's, it always helps to know as far in advance as possible if we're gonna be committing to an all-day meeting. So, if we think we're gonna have to do that, maybe you could give, some possibilities to them when you meet with them next.
I can do that, but you have to tell me what possibilities are, 'cause pull my mic, I take it off my calendar. that
They,
would work
they
for me.
didn't give you any potential
No,
dates?
no,
Okay.
no.
Or maybe, if you're meeting with them next week, circulate to everybody, what their potential dates are, and then we can respond.
Okay.
But somehow, after we've done,
That's what we suggested, the noodle.
The noodle tools,
Yeah.
the noodle tools seems
Yeah.
to work fairly well, I think.
To- to
That way
put-
no one we don't have to, let's reduce the number of emails, there are
Yeah.
enough already.
Yeah.
Just do noodle tools and we
Is
can,
it Doodle poll?
Doodle poll.
sorry.
Doodle.
Oh, doodle is the bibliography, sorry. Library World came in.
It's a
Doodle,
poll.
noodle.
Doodle poll.
It's probably from the same company.
but we are thinking, are we not, that after we've done some thinking about this, then other people besides the board would be asked?
Yeah.
Of course, okay, so can we move on? Do you need anything else on this?
No, that's.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'd like to go on to the controversial, well, how do we phrase it on our agenda? This is sort of Adam, do you want to give the background on these letters and what kind of, this is a program issue, but it's caused some kind of special.
Yeah, I'll try my best.
And I can help you.
Please, thank
Yeah,
you, Joel,
the
yeah,
two of
feel free to jump in. But basically, in my experience at WJFF, there is occasionally a criticism of the program Democracy Now!, but they're generally few and far between, and it seems like, especially during pledge drives, it's a very popular program and a very well-liked program. When the situation between Israel and Palestine, I don't know what, increased in intensity about 2 months ago, right during our pledge drive actually. We started getting a comparatively sizable influx of comments from people who were upset at the way Democracy Now! Was covering the issue and felt that it was doing it in a very biased and sometimes untruthful way. And that's the Cliff Notes, really.
Can I ask how many people or how many calls you got, or what the reaction was, how many numbers?
I don't know I would say in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 angry responses.
Individuals.
Do we have a record of these?
Yeah, they're all in our public correspondence folder. So I could go and dig up and tell you exactly how many and when they came
But
in.
should the board have copies of those? If they're
Well, we've
public
seen some.
correspondence?
Some
The
of
ones
them
that were
have been
addressed to
sent.
the board,
Yeah,
some were
yeah,
addressed to
I'm-
the board.
But not
I'm
every
just
time.
trying to,
Yeah.
15 is different than, I've seen 2 or 3.
That's always.
The first one was the letter that came from Dr.
Dr. Eric London?
Eric London.
Right.
Could you fill us in on that one, the background of that particular member?
He
or-
basically felt that Democracy Now! Was, and I know him because he goes to the same synagogue that my wife and I go to, and we know him very well. He's pretty open-minded. I mean, he's not doesn't have very strong feelings either way about what happened in Gaza. But he himself felt that Democracy Now! Is at the very least unbalanced, and at the worst, some people feel that it's anti-Semitic. I think there's a growing backlash from parts of the Jewish community, and the question is how do we address this? I had a discussion with Rabbi Hanowitz from Blandfield Synagogue after the email was sent, and with Eric London. And while I discussed with him and with some other members of the community and told them that they might not get their wish, that Democracy Now! Is going to be put off the air, we suggested maybe giving the listening Jewish community who have strong feelings about this more of a voice. I don't think there's been a Jewish oriented or themed program on JFF for a long time. I think there used to be. Right. So that's a community that hasn't been represented, I think, for a while.
Just as a point of information, I've also seen, as part of the feedback segment that I do, some complaints about the coverage that Democracy Now! Has done on the Ukraine, and feeling that it's on the Ukraine, and feeling that Democracy Now! is anti-Ukraine and pro-Putin.
That's absurd.
Never heard of that.
That's absurd.
Democracy Now! has a long history, and she takes on very controversial issues. I mean, there have been times when I've been much annoyed with, some of the content as well. I think that sometimes, and I'm just learning this, but I think sometimes hosts have to be really careful what their guest says. And one of the guests on the show that really got my ears, what he used the term terrorist. All right, and such inflammatory language. Now, I think that Amy, perhaps as a host, and I don't know if we as a station would ever say that, how you're impacting our community, but when you use inflammatory language like that, I mean, what do you expect except for people to take it on such a personal level?
I don't think,
So,
referring to whom?
No,
She
in
called
one
a
of her
terrorist.
guests, very early on, it was I think the letter that is it Rabbi London?
No, Dr. London.
Dr.
He's
London.
a psychiatrist.
Okay, that I think it was one of the, because that was one of the early
Yeah,
responses.
that was, I think, one of the first.
Yeah, and I think
responses
that the guest that she had on was, I believe is a rabbi and a scholar, and in talking about the beginning of, can we call that a war, that it was broken out, that he used the term, and he had, I believe, as I remember, and listened to it a second time, in introducing himself, he was, I think, 10, 11 years old in the Holocaust, and he had been involved in the Zionist movement as a youth, and so he was talking about this, and he said these, the actions that he was attributing to Mr. Netanyahu said, that's when he was referring to, I think, the Netanyahu government as doing some of the terrorist techniques that, that he had fought against. And so when that word terrorist came out, to call an Israeli or a Jew a terrorist, it was,
And
and
I
another-
did
and it was
expect
a-
to ask him, why would that be inappropriate?
well, no, I'm saying, a Jew was saying that. No, I wasn't saying it was, I'm saying it's shocking language. And so I think Amy had the opportunity to follow up on him.
There's a
I
couple
think that-
other things that have happened about this. I've talked to Sybil Sanchez a bit, and Barbara had some ideas, and Madam and I have talked about it too, to sort of how to move it forward. And if I could just summarize some ideas that we might think of a way of addressing this. I've talked to Beverly Sterner as well. And I've been informed by some of these people who are practicing Jewish people, that there is a broad range of Jewish practice and heritage and in the area.
And feeling about this.
And feeling about this. It's like, it's not as simple in any way. And that maybe we should, as the rabbi had offered, to have a session where we would go to listen. And Barbara's phrase this morning was sort of the way some of our candidates go and have listen sessions with people and gather those who would like to talk about the coverage of issues concerning the Jewish community here, of which there are a lot. Democracy Now! And the bad thing is one, there are many others. And hear what their concerns are, inform them of what the givens are about doing a radio show. Whether we do special, we could certainly do some special 1-hour shows, we could do segments, we could have some people consider putting in a proposal to do a show, go through the works of becoming a volunteer. Would that be something that would help us move forward on this a bit?
Could you add to that, the talk shows that are on the air now, to invite, one of these people
Yes.
to speak? I would think those are all, possibilities to, have some kind of a balance. Used to be called the fairness doctrine under the FCC.
Back when we were fair.
we used to no longer
enforce.
No, it's no longer enforced, but,
You know,
but just to mention that I think overall at WJFF, it has never been something that we've done to demand that individual programs give different points of view. It's a matter of programming to make sure, as Joel pointed out, that we have programming that allows for the discussion of different points of view, so that Democracy Now! Is not required to give a different point of view, but our programming should have the opportunity for the other point of view to be discussed. I mean, I think we don't want to get into any kind of situation where we're suggesting that the fairness doctrine holds in programming for individual programs. And it doesn't hold in anything, but I just mean the concept of it. But Joel, what you said about it's a bigger issue if the Jewish community feels as though our programming is not allowing it
To have a voice.
have a voice. That's bigger than Democracy Now!
I don't know if anyone here would know, but have members of the Jewish community, gone through the program proposal process and not had programs accepted?
Well, it's not a question of member of the Jewish community, it's a member of something that, like, I'm trying to think, we did Yiddish theater.
Well, Joel was mentioning that we haven't had a Jewish-oriented program in a long time.
And there used to be, from what I
I'm just
understand.
wondering,
From what I understand,
have there
too.
been proposals submitted that somehow?
Not on my watch, I mean.
I think I'm the only one who's done
Oh,
a
this-
Jewish-oriented program.
Well, we did some klezmer music a lot, and we've done that. We've done the
But-
Jewish in the Alps, or in the Catskills.
We used to have community voices,
Yes.
and that, I think, is a really good vehicle or platform to launch. We need somebody to oversee that program, but that was a really good program.
Could you say a little more about what that was?
Community voices?
Yeah.
Well, community voices was usually taken over by one person, I think. Jason
Richter.
Dole would do it. Somebody but organized it,
Yeah.
You had other people participating, much
Gandalf
like.
do it for a while?
And Steve
Gandalf did
Richter.
it for a while, and people get burnt out, I mean, fairly fast, because it's a lot of work.
What's the format of the show?
I think you can have like it's a half-hour program, and there could be as many as maybe 2 to 3 segments, generally one segment on a particular topic. But I think something like that we could have find somebody to organize that, but to pick up and have a platform for issues just like what we're dealing with right now, so that their voices can be heard. And I think it'd be a great thing to reinstate.
The other program we had similar was called the Friday Forum, which, and that was an hour show, that was live. And if I remember correctly, once a month there were newspaper editors complaining with each other about what they thought, and then there'd be something else of interest. And the community voices was very local things, like fire department people. It was my first show, Community Voices, with a morbidly obese neighbor of mine who wanted to talk how he conquered his obeseness. It was, and there were shows about theater, there were some with children, and it was a half hour. But you do burn out after a while because you always have to have one new show every single week.
Pat Center. Oh,
Pat.
Pat, you go ahead.
Yeah, I like the idea of reaching out and having a meeting with the members of the Jewish community about expanding programming. I also saw in one of the things that we wrote back and forth about this, that I also like the idea of talking about an issue from multiple sides, because I think that there's a lot of people that don't understand and don't know. And we also have a volunteer, on-air volunteer, who writes about this, Barbara Nimri Aziz, on the Arab side, and she's very prolific in what she writes, her books and articles. So I think it might be an opportunity for us to have a dialogue, a civil discourse, I think I put in my email too, about issues like this, so that we can begin to understand some of the things that are happening around the world, halfway around the world. On the air, yeah. Or in a public forum like this, take a room and say we're gonna do it and have people come. The danger of doing it in this, in a, like a town hall meeting, and I've been in a couple of them in the past when I had flooding issues and I was a town supervisor, is that they can get out of control quickly, and people's tempers can flare. So having a situation where we control who the people are that we invite to discuss the issue on an air in a controlled environment may be better for us than having something where on issues that have a lot of emotion. Sometimes, I mean, I ended up having to have police officers at my meetings. So I would caution us against getting ourselves in a position where we could invite that kind of.
As someone who's done a lot of work on multiculturalism and has facilitated some of these, I think you're absolutely right. I think right now that the feelings are so raw that there's a risk that we might not be able to control.
Right. But if we had some, picked and chose some people from our community, educated, intelligent thinkers, to have a conversation counterpoint even, in a controlled environment, it might work, but that was just a thought.
John.
Balance.
Yeah, just on this, one of the things that concerns me with the letters we received is not just that the political presentation is unbalanced, but that there's outright anti-Semitism on the show. And I think if that were indeed true, you don't make up for it by having another viewpoint presented, and I don't know exactly how we address those concerns, because if they're legitimate, I mean, we wouldn't, I'm not sure whose role it is to determine whether something is anti-Semitic or racist or anything, and some of those things are just not acceptable. If that were indeed true, I think it's just not acceptable. You don't make up for it. You don't make up for racism by presenting an anti-racist viewpoint or something. Just a different balance of viewpoints doesn't make up for something that's just wrong. So.
Okay, Joel, and then Martin, and then Peter, yeah.
I think that what you're saying, what you brought up about the different, about the spectrum, right? Like the letter that we got today from, I forget what his name was, but he was virulently just angry. He was rageful, I mean, that's what I got. And then you have people on the other end of the spectrum. I mean, personally, I like democracy now. I don't get a chance to hear it, often because of what my work schedule is. But I must say that when I heard it, I had a chance to hear some of it during the Gaza situation, and I was struck by the fact that it didn't really present another point of view. It kind of simplified a lot of what's been going on. I felt uncomfortable, and I'm somebody who is pretty far left of what the usual person is.
As somebody who's married to somebody of Jewish heritage, I am not anti-Semitic. However, I do have criticisms of the way the state of Israel operates their foreign policy. And I think that sometimes it's very easy to get those two things confused.
Yeah.
And that it's a very complicated issue, absolutely. But I like the idea of the community forum or the community outreach, or what was the name of that program?
Community Voices.
Community Voices, where this way you can have one person from one segment of the community and come in a calm, rational way, kind of explain their side without getting into any controversy about it. And if you just made sure that you had a variety of voices from different communities, and that would seem like a softer way to start than to try to have a debate.
Okay,
I-
Peter, wait, just a second, Peter, did you?
Well, I think that's an important distinction to draw. Anti-Israeli comments from the point of view of criticizing policy are completely a separate matter from anti-Semitic comments. To say one when it's actually the other is a subtle form of censorship or exerting pressure towards that end. I'm thinking of that email that we were all treated to. It shouldn't have actually been sent around, I don't think, in which we were all called by implication KKK members and morons.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I will never be intimidated by language like that, and I won't accept that kind of pressure for censorship. My point of view on her coverage was that all anonymous, assiduous student of political points of view on the media, almost all the other points of view you hear are corporate and pro-Israeli points of view. She stands out, in my mind, and I'll just represent what my feelings are on this, as trying to represent the Palestinian side of things. In some people's mind, apparently that equates with being anti-Semitic, and we need to really be careful about that distinction. The other thing that email suggested was the person actually suggested that he was going to organize a boycott, a funding boycott of the station. We should be very careful about ever entertaining that kind of vitriol and that kind of pressure about the choices we've made on programming, and I'll always defend her program in as much as she tries to give a non-corporate view of all of these various inflammatory issues going on in our world. The idea that somebody was calling her pro-Putin is on its surface pathetic and absurd. And it shows that we should really look hard at some of the comments that are coming in and use our judgment about them before we actually give
send
them
them out.
time and take them seriously.
I will do a better job of that, Joel.
I would
And
just like
Joel
to
and
add
then
one more comment
Joel.
there, is that that there is anti-Semitism all over the world. That's definitely a reality. And that's that is a part of the reality of the world the way it is today. So I
Okay,
just want to
Joel,
make sure.
comment?
Yeah, I just have one last thing, because I have to go because my wife is sick. But I think that you bring up some important points, and the thing is, then how do we deal, right, then back to
What
how
are
do
we
we
gonna
deal
do
with
now?
this situation, and I think that the person who wrote the last email, I mean, it seems to me that he is, you know, speaking from a place of deep anger and fear, not necessarily representative of everybody who has made a complaint about democracy now. I think there are other people who are more measured in their feelings. But yeah, he's an extreme example of what we're facing here with this issue.
Yes,
Well, I don't know how the programming committee, whether they wait for proposals to come in, or they go out and seek proposals, go out looking for things. But this might be one of the things that the programming committee could start looking to see if we can get proposals from the different listeners who would host a show that would represent the different diverse populations. Because that's almost like what the whole anti-Semitic races, it's so there that it's hard to, not deal with it, but
Joel might be an ideal host of such a show, wouldn't you?
No, an ideal host, I think, would be Rabbi Hanowitz. He's very measured. He's somebody who I think has had some contact with WJFF before. I think he had some sort of a program, I think.
Could I just say something, because I feel like the board is getting too involved in
Yeah.
programming
that's
here.
what programming.
I thought we were discussing how to handle the issue,
Right.
because I think that this is something for a CAB and from our programming
Programming
committee
committee.
to
Our
consider. And how we deal with it is a different issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And I would just say that I think one way of dealing with it, because we don't have to create the forum. The rabbi can have a forum and invite us to tape it. Because we're not responsible for this issue. We're responsible for
how to deal with.
our
Broadcasting.
programming.
Right,
I mean,
programming.
I mean, no,
Broadcasting.
we're not responsible, the station overall is responsible for creating programming. And these opinions are what we have to deal with. How do we deal with it when people write us vitriolic communiques that complain about any of the content? What is our procedure? How do we first respond? Does the station manager respond first?
All the years that I was superintendent, if a letter came in or if there was a letter to the editor, that I would speak with that person directly, always.
Mhm.
And
So is
usually
that-
make a friend. Or at least take some of the air out of the bubble.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, can I just make one quick comment? We've been talking the last couple of meetings and maybe longer, and some of the distinctions between programming and governance. And I think that we've been talking that we want programming, we want conversations, we want dialogue, we want all kinds of coverage in all pockets of our community. This would be a really good opportunity to pilot what we're talking about, to, as you said, maybe record. He could do a seminar, he could do, a dialogue with somebody, whatever format he wants to use, and we could record it, and we have shows where it could be plugged in that,
do we agree that to solve this, it's not the board's,
right.
it's the board's to tell the responsible people, which I think is the program director and the program committee, summarize the situation for them. Are you,
No.
It's not our role to direct the programming committee to do programming in any specific way. I think our role is to determine how we respond to people who send us comments about the programming. I really don't think we should be
Can I
directing.
tell you what I've done with this Phil Jacobs guy? And what I sort of because the first communique that we got from him was a phone call, and he, sort of shouted in my ear for a while.
Is he the one that called us KKK?
Yep.
Yeah, he's the one who wrote the last.
And I told him this is a programming issue, and our program committee next meets on X date, and there's a period of public comment, and this is the appropriate venue. He demanded to speak to Sonia, and I said, I can't give you that information. Besides, she's really not the one to talk to about this. This is a programming issue. We're hiring a program director soon. He's gonna be on top of this stuff too, but, the public comment session at a program committee meeting is where you ought to go.
Good.
He didn't show up at the meeting. He then posted vitriolic stuff on our Facebook page, to which I responded as our Facebook entity and said, "Hi, Phil, it sounds like the concerns you have relate to programming. The next program committee meeting date is X." Just continued. He got Jason on the phone. Jason basically told him the same thing, come to a meeting. And then he somehow got the board's email address off of the webpage. And then I think he got your address somehow, Sonia, too.
He said
So
But I didn't call him up.
I feel like the procedure would certainly be direct them to the appropriate place
I think you handled
and I
it
did
well.
that, but
You handled
hasn't
it well.
mitigated the problem.
Well, and maybe there is no mitigation for this
Yeah.
particular person.
Right, that's
But I guess as a board, I'm concerned that we know what you just said. This is the first, write it down, this is the first thing that we do when someone comes to complain by phone,
Mhm.
by this, so that all of us know what the appropriate thing is to do and that we don't individually respond
Yeah.
to people who send us an email, because that can only escalate the matter. Instead of there being, you need to contact, whatever,
Good. It's always good to remember that individual members of the board have no authority.
Correct.
Correct. So is there anything else that we should do with the rabbi or with anything on this?
We're going to be meeting with my wife and I, because we're going to be going to synagogue this Saturday, I'm pretty sure. I know that we had spoken about maybe something that he could do, or I don't know where it left off.
Yes, I think there's much to be said for the comments about there are issues that we could include in programming, but it's not for us to say, let's do that.
Okay, so I'll talk to you.
But I think it would be good for us to inform Jason of what this is all about, and I could maybe just write a note of, that we have had these conversations with you and with Adam, and for him to just be aware of it, and that we mentioned the community voices and a Friday forum, and, that there's interest in, but not in terms of directing any of those actions to happen, right? Yeah.
To just reiterate, if someone gets a phone call, Adam responds. As you said. Now, for letters and things like that, correspondence, is Sonia, you going to respond?
When there's a vitriolic letter like that, what I did before was to talk with Adam, what should we do about this? Because it was venomous kind of response. If it had been, I guess it would be,
Can you respond to Dr. London's letter?
I wrote a courtesy
Yes,
letter to
John.
him and encouraged him to become more involved in here at the station, basically. So.
yes.
I would just like to bring up a related issue, and that is that, not that we can do anything right now about it, but given the tenor of that particular email that we're discussing, I suddenly started to worry about security in the building for people there, and the fact that anybody can charge into that building in a state of high temper and who knows what, while that show is on, believing that whoever is sitting there is responsible for the views and so forth. I would like the board perhaps to consider at some time soon whether or not we shouldn't have an ID card system to protect people inside the building.
And an alarm system, perhaps.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, right,
facilities
it's
committee talked about
I don't know.
entirely too open
I-
and protected.
I would speak out against any kind of ID system. We're a public, it's like putting, based on one crazy
The hour
coup.
is getting, can we think about that at the next time? But as far as closure on this, are we kind of,
I'm gonna bug out too. I think you probably have seen I'm suffering here from my allergies, so I'm gonna go.
Thank you.
Good night, folks.
okay? We're gonna,
Okay, bring in the replacements. Okay, come on in.
we're gonna leave this now and move on to the next thing, which is about the CAB members, if I can we do that, Casa?
Did Joel just walk out?
Yes.
Is that his jacket there on his chair?
You can't leave.
No. Okay, I was given, last time we were together, I was given a list of people who, to reach out to for the CAB. And, what I did with that, I spoke with Sheila and Barbara. No, Sheila and Judy, who were at the last meeting. And, I told them that what I would do was I would focus on. That's not
Want me
me.
to line phone off? Is that?
Not mine.
It's done by-
Yeah, in the back in the city.
He said
Sheila and,
He said security might go on.
yeah,
I spoke with Sheila and Judy because they were at the last meeting. And so the first 4 names on this list, I don't have any bio information on because they're former CAB members and I think everybody sort of knows who they are. But the other people on the list, I kind of reached out to on my own and for different reasons. And I thought that they would be really good selections for the CAB. Because they represent different parts of our community that we not necessarily have had on a CAB committee, to my knowledge. So, I don't know if you need for me to go through each one. Kevin,
could you name them?
yeah, okay. Kevin, number 5, he lives in Monticello, and he does a lot of the work with the young people.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
did I
Tasha,
give
do you have a spare?
Oh, you got my paper.
Yeah, I was wondering what those.
Yeah, okay.
Does everybody have one to share, or?
No,
I'm sorry, was that sent to us?
No.
Pass it
Oh,
around.
I just passed it around. I just
I
need to-
missed that part.
No, I
That's why I was asking you to list them.
Okay.
I thought we were going blind here.
Kevin is from Monticello, and everybody on the list that I got, now I know that Sheila and Judy also have people who they know that I don't have, whose name and contact information, but I knew that it was very important that we have a significant number of people to add to the CAB. And these are the individuals that, from the list that I have, and then people that I've worked with in the community that I would recommend for the CAB. Deborah is retired. She has worked 40 years with corporate planning, events planning. She works, she has her second home up here in Hurleyville. She lives in the Bronx. She has her second home up here. That's her contact information. Rodney Harder, his name was recommended, I think, by Pat.
Barbara Nimri Aziz
Recommended.
actually recommended him, and then I spoke with him, and he sent me the resume, which I forwarded on.
Okay, so this
to
is
you
his
guys, yeah.
information. And Anastasia has a studio, an art studio, music art studio, and she lives in Woodburn, but her studio is in Ellenville, and she does a lot of community work. She has, she actually has would have a strong feeling about the discussion we just had, you know, because of her interests. Amal she happens to be one of my students, my ESL students, yeah. And, excuse the typo, she's been in this country for 3 years, and her English is very good, and she wants to be more involved in what's going on in the community. And when I was talking to her about the radio station, she began listening to the station, and she said she would love to be part of that outreach.
And where does she live?
She lives in Monticello. She has the
Amal.
number 9, Amal. She has 3 sons, one in elementary school, one in middle school, one in high school. And she's from Cairo. She's 3 years in this country. And her English is really well. You have to be near her because she's learning the language, but she wants to be a part of community activity. Lydia was a former member. She lives in Liberty. She's involved with youth radio. she has a group of young people already. She was, I think, a CAB member formerly, Lydia Rowe and her husband Errol. They were both former CAB members. And Pete, number 11, we call him Pete, he works with the young people at risk. And yeah, he is a member of his group that he advocates for the prevention, intervention, and awareness and education in preventing gangs. And so there's a segment of the community. He has a beautiful story of redemption that he will share. It's not mine to share, but those are the members that I thought would be awesome CAB personnel. You said diversity. You told me diversity. And the other thing, I didn't have these names on the list, but earlier, Midge and I were at the youth radio. Kevin was at the youth radio, and there were just two young people there that I just thought was so incredibly dynamic that they would certainly be representatives from that segment of our young population.
Which two?
Leaf and Cal.
Leif Johansson.
Leif Johansson.
He was a graduate, really, of the radio.
Yeah, and Cal Rogers.
No, he's not.
And I don't know if there's like an age issue. I don't know why it would be.
Leif's in college now, I think, so
Yeah.
he's.
So those names are not on this list, but I have their bio information. Leif graduated, he's in college, he works with Manor Inc., and he does a lot of DJing. And he wrote, that's difficult to do on paper. When I asked him, can we give you a little bio of yourself? And Cal, am I saying it right, Callum?
I think so.
Yeah, he lives in Long Eddy, and they were both very excited to be part of, if they could be a part of the CAB. So those are the names that I came up with. The list that was given at the last meeting, for a number of reasons, the people who were on that list were not able to commit to being on the
These people have all committed saying
They're all committed to saying they would, they know that there's a October 6th first meeting. They all understand that the committee will be meeting 4 times a year, but they would be expected to participate in community outreach. And as I was looking for people, I was looking for people in segments of the community that we really want to be involved in WJFF. With the first 4 people on the list, people who've already been, who were on the last CAB. So,
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask what I hope is a silly question. I know that there's a requirement that all of us be US citizens. There's no such requirement for CAB, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The thing that I noticed in the previous list that Sonia had distributed, there were just 1 or 2 people. There were people there from Pennsylvania, and that's the first thing that I noticed here. Is that while we do want to do the outreach to the eastern part, I don't. Sheila lives in Pennsylvania. Where does Barbara live?
I think Judy does.
Judy does.
Barbara's in
Okay.
Livingston
Okay.
now.
Okay. Well, that's more comfortable.
Sheila
That's more
Dugan.
comfortable because
Right,
we don't
yeah.
wanna
Right.
go
Right.
the other
Go
go the
the
other
way,
the
I'm
reverse
not sure
direction.
about Larry, but I
Larry, I
know
think
that
is-
Barbara lives up in
Liberty area.
Willowweemoc. She lives up in Neversink.
Mhm.
On the hill.
So-
Well,
Were
that
you
seems-
thinking that we should, that you want all of these people to? All of them to, okay.
that's why I contacted them. They all understand that it's up to,
Plus the 2 more from the youth radio?
plus the 2 more from the youth radio, and they
Total
are,
13.
yeah, Long Eddy and Tribe.
Will those 2 be able to get to meetings regularly? I mean, did you talk to them enough about it to know?
We did. I talked to them about that and, about the transportation and getting, and this like 4 times a meeting, 4 times a year is what the last, did I understand that correctly? CAB said they only want to meet 4 times a year. However, they were willing to email and Skype and do their community outreach the way they found it most effective.
And if they want to, they can have more meetings.
And
too.
they're free to have more meetings as they see fit.
Where do they currently meet? The CAB.
They haven't met in a couple of months
I
at
think they
least.
moved it around. I think they
They were
met here
moving
or the village,
around.
maybe the village hall a few times, but
Have
They used to
scheduled-
try to move it to make it easier, but I'm not sure that's, right now, nothing's
That's one of the
established.
things that we talked the last time we got together, of moving the meetings around the area so that it's not.
There's no set date for our next meeting yet?
I think they said I have October sixth.
October 6th.
So, and I think
right.
that's like 7 days we have to announce the meeting, and
Okay, so do we have are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion.
To accept these members?
Accept the
The slate.
names on this list for addition to the 4 members that we currently have of the Community Advisory Board.
To serve for 1 year.
That, to serve for 1 year. Yeah.
Along with the 2 youth people?
along with,
They're not on this list.
They wrote it out, and this only they only came to
15.
me.
That would be 17. That would,
No,
that'd be within our bylaws.
It would be 13. Where'd you get
11,
But you add it to the 4,
11, 13.
right, and add it to the 4 that we currently
Four.
have.
Four
And-
on there.
Four are
Yeah,
part of the
four's on
number.
there.
Oh, is it? Oh.
There are 4 on here. and-
Sorry.
and
So
two
13.
Oh,
more.
so then we still have even more expansion.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
13 is a good number.
Okay, so we have
Sorry.
a motion to add these to the existing 4 members to serve for a 1-year term on the CAB. We have a motion, and Tasa made, seconded by Ann. Any more discussion?
So the term starting when?
And the term starts,
The term started, didn't we appoint Sheila and the others already?
Sheila and
Yes.
So
Larry.
their term started and the new ones will start.
we don't want them all to be finished at the same time.
Yes.
No, we don't want that.
That's right. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so do we want to,
Why don't we say, we appoint them effective October 1? And then they'll
Okay,
be
that's
on
good.
for the October 6th meeting and.
Perhaps the CAB themselves can find a way to stagger their terms and leave that to them to work it out, knowing that they don't want to have the same.
Right.
Do the bylaws establish 2-year terms?
It's a 2-year term in bylaws.
3 years?
2.
Okay, so it's for a 1-year term. This motion is for a 2-year term.
I think it's a 2-year term. I thought that was a 1-year term.
Page 18 of the bylaws there.
Huh?
Page 18.
Oh, do you?
She's got it. All right, so it's for a 2-year.
I just happen to have it.
You just happen to have it, Andrea.
Gosh, I think we talked about it. They wanted to have 2-year term, right? And then they had half of them come up every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they would review it at the
Right.
end of the year.
And my question is, what is our maximum number we can have? We can have 17 on there? So if we come up with some really other good candidates, there's still a little room
It's
there.
15.
7 to 15 members.
Okay. So
2
we could
years.
put in 2 more
So they're
members.
appointed for 2 years, starting October.
So we're amending the motion to say 2 years.
Okay, we're amending the motion to say 2 years.
Effective
And-
October 1st.
Starting October 1st.
So I make a motion that we
Any
But
discussion?
wait a minute, are we gonna stagger these people who are appointing today?
The 4 ones at the top will be at a different time.
Yeah, they started in June.
They're already
Already.
different. But they,
And it wouldn't be 2 years, it's actually going to be through the end of June. When's our annual meeting? The end of June 2016?
Because I think the bylaws state when they are appointed.
Right,
Yeah.
after the,
Yeah.
at the annual meeting, which is July.
Do you have the
Yes.
bylaws?
Yes, I do.
And does
I'm
it say?
looking, It says,
but
term of office shall be 2 years. A CAB member may serve 2 consecutive terms, after which he or she will be ineligible to serve for
But-
2 years before again becoming a member.
Just to say when they're appointed, are they appointed at the
with
annual
the Board
meeting?
of Trustees?
When does the 2-year term
And-
start?
Exactly.
The meeting after the annual meeting.
You know, we
Meeting
did,
after?
with the Board of Trustees, we appointed people for different terms. Why don't we appoint half these people for a 1-year term
That's a
and
good
half the
idea.
people for the 2-year
Yeah, I was
term?
thinking that, but.
There's
yeah.
9 of them, you put 5 for 2 years, 5 for 1 year, and then it'll all work out.
What's the average lifespan?
CAB volunteer?
CAB board member.
All right, so we're gonna just arbitrarily,
Draw a line.
yeah, from 5 to 8 are
Oh, is
for
it
1 year.
alphabetical? No, it's not alphabetical.
And for the rest of the people are for 2 years, just, that's the 2 youth and number 10 and 11, okay?
So where did you draw your line?
I just said from 5
Five through
through 8 is 1 year, and from 9, 10, 11, and the 2 youth are for 2 years.
Doesn't that contradict the bylaws?
Just,
Well,
Yeah,
how about
short
if
point.
they wanted to do it again?
They should make, let them
Yeah,
make
they
the
can do
decision.
All right, let them decide, okay. All right, we have a motion that,
We name them, that's all.
Up to, appointment for up to 2 years.
Right.
up to two.
for up to, that's a good phrase.
Beautiful.
Up to two. All right, a vote on that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, abstaining? Okay, we're moving forward. Very nice.
Thank you, Tassa. This is like
That
an
is wonderful.
amazing list. It's
We are
so
just, thank you.
awesome.
New voices.
They're all very civil, so.
Oh,
just you wait.
The concern that you
So were
have.
we when we first met.
Okay, let's go to facilities and operations. Any, Martin, any?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. We had a meeting with the technology group just a couple weeks ago, and of course, the number one issue is the tower. And that's, it was generally realized that the tower is, if it turns out the way it's projected, we may be off the tower by June 1st of next year. And that's only 9 months away. Now, ideally, we should try to, as Sonia said, we should try to figure out politically how to stay on the tower that we're on now. But we better have some plans for other options, because 9 months is a short time. It's too short for us to build a tower, but it's not too short for us to buy an existing tower, or the third option would be to rent space on somebody else's tower. And I think what we need to do is start investigating all these options, and it would be really nice if the person who bought the diocese, the Archdiocese tower, would either sell it to us or give us some kind of really long-term lease on it. The best thing is for them to sell it to us, and then we can control it and use it for our indefinitely, and maybe we could rent some space on it to somebody else too sometime.
Where is,
So I took the liberty of kind of summarizing some
Yeah.
steps, which I gave you just now, and you also have it electronically, because Adam and I have, and others have done a few things about this already.
Yeah.
Number
copies of
one,
those?
you can have, I'll give it to you.
no, I mean, does everyone have a copy of
Yes,
that?
I just gave it out.
It probably,
at the start of the
yeah.
handed
meeting.
it out at the beginning of the
Yeah,
meeting.
right at
Because
the
something
beginning.
happens yesterday and the day before that really made it different. There's two sections. One, stay on the tower, and these are the steps we would follow.
Right.
And two, if we can't, here are the steps we would follow. And I've identified the main people who are working on this. And so far what we've learned is that we have support of at least 3 of the legislators, Geiger, Vedder, and Edwards,
3 out of how many?
out of 9. And we haven't contacted a few of the others. Cindy Geiger met with us. We had to identify what she thinks we should do and what she is willing to do. She will send Adam a whole set of presentations made by a company that was very much involved in the discussion of the tower. A lot of specifics about the tower and building it. She's gonna do that. She's offered to convene a meeting for us where we would make a case why we should continue on the tower and what the benefits are to the county, because there are considerable benefits, as you can see in what I proposed, why they would want us to stay on the tower. I've asked, in order for us all, whoever is interested, to be up to speed on the intricacies of towers and transmissions and, the whole shebang, I've asked our engineer, Earl and Malcolm Brown, who put the tower up, to do a sort of Tower 101 one evening, and they both agreed to do it at a time convenient to them. It's not a board meeting, it doesn't need, they're willing to do it, we'll find it at a time soon, and we'll learn some basics about towers,
That
whoever.
sounds like a good meeting. Is this something separate? Is this gonna go through the facilities committee, or is it not gonna go through?
Not that meeting, I've asked
No, but I
them-
mean the whole process of
The-
trying to find a tower.
Yes, I think this is what we have done so far. This is just the identifying of steps that we've done so far. And
But I mean, is this a separate group now? This is a group?
these are just 3 people or 4 people who have taken some action on it. When
Okay.
Cindy Geiger, I met her socially at some event, and I asked her on last Sunday, can you help us?
Mhm.
Because the legislature really does tell the civil servants what they want to do. And she also said something I thought was really very, very insightful. She's been there for 3 years, and she said, Sonia, everything takes much longer than you think. And there's always going to be something that goes wrong. So it was kind of a
So
positive.
just in the meantime, I'm saying that the 9 months, that is gonna be clicking away, and so we should develop our other options. And this sounds like, and like she said, things can go wrong, so we shouldn't put all our eggs in trying to.
Absolutely
yeah.
not.
So we should try to start developing these other ideas
Okay,
right away.
yeah.
Could I just say something in relation to Martin's question? We at a previous, or I think prior to, I think I was just a listener or in the public, the board actually, I believe, made a motion for a group to be a task force, whatever you want to call it, separate from the facilities.
Okay.
Which was of people who would be able to reach out, who are connected in the community, to reach out to the legislators, et cetera. I mean, does anybody else have this memory on
Yeah,
this
but
very?
We went to a meeting, the only person that's not on there is me, and that's fine,
Mhm.
because my
But there
schedule
was
is
such
tough.
there was such a
Yeah,
group.
because we did, I went with Sonia and Adam, and
Uh-huh.
Earl was on
I'm just
that.
trying,
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
because we got several
Yeah.
groups here, so I'm
Yeah.
just trying to say that this is a pre-existing group
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
but it was just people that had some knowledge and
and expertise and
exactly.
knowledge of the
And
people.
I had just finished writing that grant, and so I knew some stuff about it too, so.
Mhm.
But I have a lousy schedule, so it's fine.
So my question still is all the research and the contacting people, that's gonna be done by this group?
Well, we have a work group on the tower, and other
Okay.
people who would like to participate in doing it. Absolutely, I'm sorry. I knew there were people involved, and it was Adam and
So
I. and-
that work group is gonna report to the facilities committee or directly to the board?
I think they should report to the facilities committee.
I think that we should put.
If you're going by the bylaws.
This was a work, my memory is that it was a group constituted of board members that had specific characteristics that were going to be the face of meeting with the county legislators
Right.
and report to the board.
Yeah, that's real good, but that's not the same as exploring other options, you know, because.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, those are two different areas, right? One is technical, and one is political, or reaching out and negotiating, or couldn't both things be going on at the same time?
I'm just asking about procedure and like the bylaws, it says that it's supposed to go through the facilities committee. I thought anything equipment, anything related to the building and the structure should go through the facilities committee. And the tower, you know, negotiating with the legislatures that's not something about the building.
That's what I'm saying,
Well-
you know, and that
So
this
maybe
is-
we need to
Well, I
just.
didn't
sit-
say that this is wrong, I didn't say
No.
it was wrong.
No, I'm.
You know, Martin, I felt that these conversations with Cindy were literally in the last 2 days, and I didn't want to, I wanted to share this with you because I thought it was important and hopeful. Before we go tonight, let's put our heads together and see how this is standing, because, and see what changes could be made and where your people would like to
Because
be
we
coming.
had a long discussion about this, saying, you know, what were a lot of the options that we had there, and there was, from the concept of building the tower, well, the thing about that is that it seems at first very expensive and impossible to do. On the other hand, there may be a situation where somebody could give us a small piece of real estate that we could somehow figure out how to put up a tower for a reasonable amount of money. So I think we should start exploring all these different options, and I think it's probably too late to start building a tower right from scratch. But so I'm thinking is let's look around for some other towers that are either underutilized or partially built or semi-abandoned, and try to go for one. There's another thing that came up at the meeting is that you say, well, let's rent some space over here on 102, Thunder 102. Apparently they're advertising that they want people to go on their tower. But if we put on there, if we rent space on there for a while, the first thing is we have to have an engineering study to say, before we, as it was pointed out by Adam, if we move our transmitter 10 feet up on the tower, it changes our signal, so therefore you have to have an engineering change. So you have to have engineering research on this. So if we move to, you can say, well, let's just move to this tower for temporarily and then move to that tower permanently. That's going to cost us. There's a penalty for doing that. So it'd be real good to have a plan worked out so that we move once. And also, every time you move, there's going to be a little difference in signal. And if we have to, so it would be much better if we could find out, if we could buy a tower from somebody or get a real long-term lease for one that already exists rather than trying to build one as a long-term plan that we
Right.
don't have time for.
I
And
think
I'm
that
kinda
one of the
against
phrases
renting
that
them.
Cindy asked is there a way we can strengthen the tower so we can stay there?
Yeah, those are all good
And-
engineering
and-
questions.
And we can find that out.
Yeah.
And
That letter saying that they had a 97% capacity, you read the letter from the.
I did.
Yeah, and they said they recommended all non-county things be taken off the tower. It doesn't mean that is in set in gold, that was only
No.
their recommendation.
Okay, so what's the next step?
Well, we should start trying to investigate where there's every tower in the county that's somewhere near where we're at. Are any of them for sale? Is this one about the archdiocese? That's real close, and it sounds like it's got maybe not even being used now. I don't even know. I've never seen this, so.
I think Adam said you identified who the owner was. And do we know anything about them?
They own lots of towers.
Oh, it's a company.
It's no longer the archdiocese that owns it now. It's a company that owns and maintains lots of towers.
Is it in use still?
It is.
Is that the company that you said had deep pockets? Was that the
No,
one?
different company.
Okay.
Now,
No, isn't that Goose Town?
Yeah.
Goose Town, and it's one of the Sound of Life, at least my understanding is it's Sound of Life, and it's licensed with a tower in Milford that's owned by Bud Williamson.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's at least what my understanding is. So Bud Williamson is the engineer who was offering us a swap for a tower in Milford, and who is the engineer who spec'd and supplied the equipment at the Honesdale studio.
The other thing is this extensive study during in 2006 and 8. Have you seen that, Adam?
Not yet. I've got to call into the people that did it.
It says that it was for the expansion. It may not be a complete survey of all towers that may be suitable for us.
It's also 6 years old. I would imagine there's been some more towers put up since then.
John, do you remember what that was?
That was when I believe the FCC opened a window for licenses, and there were a few.
Mainly expanding the service,
that
area,
we
not
were-
for getting a primary.
Right.
Right.
And so we were looking primarily at Honesdale, Susquehanna. There was nothing available in Honesdale, but would have been the hope, is that area was one thought. There was a available license in Susquehanna, and we looked up at Unadilla at potential transmitter site up there. Yeah. And that just seemed like a whole another world up there, not directly connected with this one. And so after spending a lot of time and money looking at kind of engineering surveys and things, there was nothing that really seemed like a viable option.
But those were peripheral stations to expand our signal.
Yes, yes.
That wasn't a survey of the towers.
We weren't thinking at the time of relocating within the,
But
within
now
the
we may need
community license.
a tower, a primary tower. So that's why I say, we should survey the county and the whole area and see maybe adjoining counties. Maybe there's a spot where there's a tower that's not being used, or the best thing is to find something permanent. And it's going to take us months to do this. It's not just going to, all of a sudden we decide we're going to do this, because it's going to be complicated. It's going to cost us money to move too. And we're going to have to be probably paying, where the county gives it for us for free, we're undoubtedly gonna be paying wherever we're going, if we have to go. And the best thing is to reinforce the tower or something else and stay in the
Even
tower.
if we stay,
But
we're
we
gonna
better
have to
not.
start paying.
Yeah, and we better have some other plan, and we can't wait 6 months and say, oh, well, we gotta find a new tower. We better have some plans already, and I say, explore all possibilities. And if you see a tower somewhere, you should tell us about it.
Well, it has to
We'll try
be in a
figure
certain
out.
location. It just
Right.
can't be anywhere.
Well, it could be,
Because we'd have to go through a lot of changing license things. It would, if
You
you,
would want to try to get exactly the same.
Yeah.
The
Contour.
easiest
Yeah.
way for the FCC is you
Right.
would be coming in with exactly the same 60
Footprint.
dBu.
yeah,
And when you say that you could go up, I mean, the 60 dBu is based on both the height and the strength of your signals. So
Right.
if you went up, you would modulate the strength so that you would end up with the same signal. So it would not be the same type of engineering study that you would have to do if you were going to another location. That would be a lot more complicated engineering study. And so I think this came up at the meeting, I just listened to the tape of the meeting. It doesn't if we were to strengthen the tower, which was one of the suggestions that your committee discussed,
which may or may not be possible, we don't know.
we don't know that, that's something that we can investigate. If we were to do that, it wouldn't necessarily mean that we would have to change our position on the tower. We could stay in exactly the same position in the tower, we would just be strengthening the tower and lengthening the tower so that the county
That would be a very good
could,
result.
and then we wouldn't have to do anything.
I heard from Dick, it doesn't sound like that would happen. It sounds like if somehow we do get to stay, we'll get pushed higher or lower. That was the impression that I got from what he said.
Lengthening the tower also put it over that 200
Yeah,
foot.
we'd have to be
And
lit.
so it would have to be lit, and
Now,
all
if they're
that has to be
going up, I'm
monitored.
thinking
Though I suppose
more-
that's all computerized now. It used to be.
Probably just be
Yeah.
strengthening the legs rather than making it higher, you know.
That's
rather
something
than-
for the engineers to figure out.
The facilities committee working together with the broadcast tech committee on
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
and
We had our
so.
first meeting, we talked, a lot of things we talked about was.
So in terms of in pursuing these options related to the actual tower and maybe starting to find tower sites, that group, myself is part of that as best I can.
that would
They're
be-
just ready, they're ready to start going, putting that list, you guys, myself, we can start putting that together immediately, as well as maybe trying to find out, clarify whether there really is any option in terms of strengthening the tower.
Well, and that Sonia's group can keep doing what you're doing.
I think what I want to pursue is get the material from Cindy on this. The presentation was made by the people building the tower or doing the work a year or two ago. And
Building which tower?
they're building a lot of towers. They're building a bunch.
During the
for
county
10 mil- throughout the
upgrades,
county.
The
communication
county
upgrades.
Yes, they're making
They're upgrading all their
Grahamsville,
emergency,
I mean, all over the
radios.
So they're building a new series of towers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Except for
Along
the one,
river
except for
corridor.
the Elk Point Road.
So
one.
we'll have that presentation, I think, so we've learned something about that. You know, these things that Ann mentioned about the DBUs, and, because I don't know that data, and I don't know how, that's why I thought we need to have our engineer and Malcolm tell us some of the facts about some of these things as a baseline. And then the idea of Cindy presenting a case, for us to, at Cindy's invitation, present a case to the county on why this is a good service to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Adam.
Here's what I'd like to do, like tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I'd like to call a different engineer besides the one the county's using and ask them what it'll cost to have them come and see, is it possible to strengthen or heighten the existing tower? I'd like to call the people who own the Archdiocese Tower and find out if that tower is available for rent, for sale, how much it costs. And I feel like those two things can inform us, particularly can the existing tower be strengthened? Yes or no?
Well, you can ask Earl that.
The Blue Wing folks responded and said, no, I'm not really satisfied with that, and I'd like to bring in a third party, someone who's not already on
I
county
guess I
payroll.
would only ask why we wouldn't ask Earl. Earl is the tower guy from Cablevision. Earl is the person who.
I asked Earl and he gave me the number for 2 tower companies.
Did he? Well, let's see what happens at this meeting, because Earl is the person, just a little bit historically, when we got the space in the tower, the same issues about loading, et cetera, interference were presented by members of the legislature. And Earl actually went in and he reduced the load on the tower by removing unused equipment. He did everything to make it possible for us to go on that tower. He's maintained the tower for 25 years.
He doesn't maintain that tower.
Well, he maintains our place on it.
He
Okay,
does,
is
yeah,
that
he
it?
definitely
Yeah,
does. But
and
he's not the one who's looking after the structure of the legs of
That's
that
right.
tower.
But
structural
he's well
engineer.
informed.
Yeah.
And
He is,
I
and
thought-
I've been talking to him about this issue for several months now, and his advice to me has basically been to bring in an outside engineer.
Mhm.
And I mean, I can call him and ask him to call you and tell you that.
You don't need to do that, Adam. I think that Sonia has a meeting planned in which he can express that. But I think that not using, one of the things that struck me when I was listening to the tape of the meeting is that Earl was not present.
Yeah, I had asked him to be there, he wasn't there.
You have
Yeah.
to connect him on the phone. But anyway, when I spoke with Malcolm and Earl about doing something special, so we can all be on the same level of knowledge about towers, which I think we all, I feel very ignorant about a lot of these things. And when
Great
I
idea.
talk, and Cindy said, Sonia, you need to teach me about these things too. Because if we're gonna make a case for the county, we have to have our stuff together. And he wrote back, Friday afternoons or evening or Monday may work. So, what do I do? Just go and see when those two gentlemen can do this?
Yeah.
We don't need 7 days' notice, we just need to announce it.
At their convenience.
At their convenience.
And whoever can go.
And whoever can go, can go. Is that?
And just on your list of political people too, I did speak with Ira Steingart, who's
Oh,
also a
yes,
legislature.
Oh, absolutely.
Legislator, and he was surprised, he didn't know anything about the county asking us to get off the tower. And he said he is not in favor of that. So there's another person in our corner that has already been contacted and knew that, but I can contact a couple of the other people that I know, and so we can at least let them know what's going on.
A sobering question Cindy asked us, and I think Adam and I were, why didn't the county bring you in on all of this right away? When they were planning to do this, knowing we've been on the tower for 25 years, and they never considered the impact on us and built it into their plan, it's, okay. So, all right, I don't know, we're gonna talk more about this,
Yeah.
we're gonna figure, and set a date for this, a public meeting, what you need to know about towers, and I must say, I am sort of optimistic. There's a lot of goodwill at the county level on those elected officials for us, and now's the time to call in the chits,
I'm concerned that this is a numbers game and that all the goodwill in the county isn't gonna do us any good if the tower cannot support the weight or the wind load. And we really need to find out, can the tower, yes or no, be strengthened? And if the answer is yes, then all that goodwill is gonna do a lot of good for us. But
In the meantime, I think, Adam, you should make the phone calls you wanted to make, and that, we should try to, it'd be great if we could solve it
The more
politically.
information
but-
that we have, the better.
The
we
more
can
information.
make a
More
decision.
information. But will the engineer need what the plans are for that
Oh.
tower? I mean, how can he make a judgment without knowing what the county is intending to put up there?
And you see, the other thing about the county is, like you said, they're building 2 or 3 other towers?
I think they're building 10.
Six.
Several.
10.
Lots.
6 or 7? Oh,
It's
my
a
God.
$10 million thing.
So
Yeah.
why
Oh,
don't
that's
they
where I got the
take
10.
some of the equipment off of Elk Road Tower and put it on one of their other
Well,
The
projects?
towers are being built to change the radio systems from low band to high band,
Yeah.
so that all the emergency vehicles, the highway departments, the ambulances, the fire trucks, the first responders can communicate with each other countywide.
Yeah, now, are these
So-
towers really tall towers, or
Some
they?
of them are, some of them are not. But they cover the river valley now, which had not been covered before. And it was for emergencies. That's where they got the grant from, was for emergency responses. So the radio was not considered as part of this.
No, but maybe the political pressure could push them to move some of their
Okay,
equipment
I
off to
think,
another tower.
is it okay if we move on?
Sure.
I'd like to hear a little bit about the program committee, and I
Okay,
hope
wait a
you
minute, I got just two
you have-
more
oh,
things
a
to
bit
talk
more.
about. One of them is that at our meeting, we talked a lot about how to rearrange and redirect or redo the upstairs of the studio and maybe move walls and do stuff like this, and we were, it was all very good for the technology committee to be there and for us to figure out what kind of space we're gonna need in the future and stuff like that. The other thing is that on the ramp, nobody has responded to our request for, to put in proposals, to one person, but so I made up this little proposal, and I made about a dozen of them, and we could work with, Sonia said that we should have 3, I'm just gonna pass a couple of these around for you to look at.
We should have 3 bids.
We should have 3 bids. Now, if we're gonna go with the 3 bids, you have to set up you have to have something for them to bid on, number one. They have to bid on something. They can't just bid on, they have to bid on.
Didn't we have a design that was done by, no,
No,
we didn't.
no, there's none. No, we talked about having Michael Shanicki do it, but that's the end of that. That hasn't happened. So, as far as I know, these are the only plans for, the ramp. And so, the thing is if if you're gonna ask people to make a bid on it, you have to tell them specifically, it has to be done like this, it has to have this materials, and you have to have something for them to bid on. So, I'm gonna pass, I want you to look at these and see if you know anybody that might be interested in building this, please have them contact us, and if they want to put in a sealed bid, unfortunately, the way to do that is you have to send bids to Barbara, and she holds them until we get 3 of them, and then, and the other thing is that we may not necessarily want to go with the lowest bidder. The lowest bidder may not be the best person to do the job. So,
Something happened today, which kind of pertains to this. We'd sent a letter to Bowdenstein,
Right.
about the use of the greenhouse.
Yeah.
And I
We sent him all
followed
the
up.
paperwork,
Yep.
to apply for the change of use.
Okay, so I called a week ago to Colleen at the village, and what's happening? And she said, I don't know, but our building inspector, whose name is, you remember the guy's name we met with?
I know.
Ottenberg or something like that. Anyway, he's here Wednesday, he'll call you. He called today, and I said, you're only there 1 day a week, can you go to the greenhouse and give us some advice?
Mhm.
And he did, and Adam, just after that meeting, we felt it was worth following up. He wrote up what the guy said. Do you want to summarize what? But the pertinent thing that relates to this is, I said, we're having trouble getting bids. He said, and can you give us the name of someone who's put up these ramps before, who knows how to do it, who you think it does a good job? He said, yes, I will call him tomorrow at the other place where he works and get the name of somebody.
Okay.
And then the bid would be for doing 2 ramps, because we have to do an entrance to the greenhouse
Okay,
as
then
well.
that brings up the other thing. We don't have a plan for the ramp at the greenhouse, and Pat, do we need a building permit for this?
Yeah, we need,
Yes. Yes.
we need to make sure that it complies with, the
ADA, well,
ADA.
that's not up for the building, that's up for us to make sure it's ADA
Well,
compliant.
he's not gonna approve it until he knows that it does, but.
Okay,
But yeah, and the work that, the paperwork that we submitted for the change of use had 2 names on it, contact names. You as the president and Adam as the general manager. George Fulton did all of that, the secret report and the request to the village, and we had to give multiple copies of that and multiple copies of the survey that George Fulton did. George Fulton will represent us in front of the planning board, so it was good that they said they're scheduling a meeting like October 1st. George will attend as our expert.
We may want him to, well, what they said is they're gonna plan that meeting. We need to bring the deed with us. And we don't,
George has the deed.
Oh.
George, all the
Okay.
legal documents for this project were given to George to develop the survey,
okay.
which we did, and then we also decided we may have to use Ken Klein as an attorney, and I went and met with Ken Klein with copies of all the documents, and Ken suggested that we start with George, and I made a report on this. So
Yes.
Ken suggested that we start with George, and if we ran into any hurdles or stumbling blocks, then he would come in as the attorney. But he said, start it out with George Fulton, and George will take care of it. And I talked to George, and I gave him the copy of the letter that the code enforcement officer had given us, so he has that. And then George also made us a copy of the
Jeff Hydro property with a 15-foot right-of-way in front of it, the survey, so that when we're doing the work on the ramps, that we can have that done,
And
so.
those are also in the files of WJFF, just so
Well,
that you,
so
you know.
but I did, you know,
No, no, I'm just saying that so
So
that
I got 2
people-
copies, one for Adam for the file, and one for Martin for the facilities committee.
Mhm.
So, yeah, the guy called you because on the applications, I don't have
Yeah.
any status for that,
Okay,
was your name and Adam's name.
okay.
And George Fulton, though, is the one that's gonna take this to the town or the village for us.
So there would be,
This is the use of the greenhouse.
Yes.
Okay.
and that is, if all goes as this gentleman is planning, the 1st of October at the,
Right, and so, and George will know that because George will call him too,
Okay.
and they'll let George know. And if they call you again, then say, we're gonna be represented by George Fulton at
Okay,
this hearing, because George has all of the paperwork, he has the deed, he has everything, and he has all the engineering papers, and all the applications in the village, and the maps. And so, we just need to tell George, the code enforcement officer was just very specific about knowing what we're gonna do, that we can only use 1,800 square feet in the building, for professional offices. Well, the first floor square footage is probably only 1,450 maybe. And we just say we're gonna use the basement for storage, we're
Yes.
only gonna use the first floor.
Mhm.
So,
he looked at that and
Yeah.
that was no problem, and the parking in the
Yeah.
front is satisfactory.
well, and
Oh,
George just
great.
wanted to let us know, that's according to him, George Fulton said, that he feels that the state it's State Route 52, and they may have something to say about
What do you
a
think?
driveway and access on that, but as long as nobody's making an issue out of it, he said, go forward. But he said he wouldn't be surprised if the state came in and looked at that, because it's the state road.
Could I just say something as a resident of Jeffersonville and someone who has been paying taxes there and dealing with issues at Town Hall? I think that, I'm very happy to hear that George Fulton's going rather than a lawyer, because I think having a lawyer representing yourself at a committee meeting would just send out red flags all over that would be saying there's something happening here that we have to pay attention to. So I'm glad George is there. He's totally respected. And I think that you should be guided by what the code enforcement officer was saying, because he's giving this sort of local, this doesn't look like a problem issue. And I hope that George doesn't bring up the State Route 52.
He said he wouldn't.
So I will get the, for Martin, I will get the name from this guy of
Wait a
a
minute, we can't,
successful.
but we can't, until we have the plans for the one that you're saying we're gonna do both of them at the same time. So we gotta have a plan we have to have architectural plans for the greenhouse too.
But if we find a man who's put up several of these
Yes.
before,
Yeah.
to the standard of how many grade and how
Yeah.
you have to go straight in,
Right,
he might be able to make,
Make
because he's
the
done
plan.
it
Okay,
before.
I thought
And the
Janine
guy
was
seemed
gonna do
willing
that.
to do that,
Okay.
so,
Whatever.
is that, was there anything else on
No.
facilities?
We're good. Moving forward.
Moving forward. Program committee liaison, could we have a bit of that?
Yeah, I was at the meeting on August 26th. They seem to be in fine shape. There's only 5 members. I think that's a little light myself, but there was only 4 present, one was absent. And they had a kind of a normal meeting, say, had some correspondence, a couple complaints. They got several new programs that are close to ready to go and under consideration. They have a self-evaluation form that's near finalization for the programmers. And they're, at that point, we're preparing for collaboration with the new program director, which I think actually happened on this last Sunday, but I couldn't be there.
What was that last one?
They're preparing for Jason,
Okay.
what changes that'll bring to their meetings.
Are they intending to do the self-evaluation?
Yeah,
Are they gonna do it like now?
well, they said it was near finalization.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they were looking for approval from somebody, but I don't know who.
They don't.
Jason.
Jason, wait,
Yeah, probably Jason, yeah.
great,
And they had a meeting Sunday, but neither
Okay.
Peter or I could be there.
okay.
No, Jason.
Okay. General Manager's report.
Adam, how about from you?
Okay, see, I guess I sent this around like last week just because I was getting ready for the drag show, which was awesome.
And you did well in your
Did
drag
okay.
segment.
We've hired Jason as program director, that's the title, so I got my clarification. The auction grossed 4,000, about 500 up from the year before. Mechanically, the auction worked exceptionally well. In our debrief sessions, we got some good feedback, lots of ideas to do better next year. The drag show, I just sent around an updated version with the numbers we brought in. Outstanding success financially. Again, mechanically ran very well. Collaboration with Forestburg Playhouse. They were a total delight to work with. The guy Franklin is just a wonderful guy. I feel like the expenses are a little high for this. Nick, if we do it again, when we do it again, we'll work at ways to cut those down a little bit. We had an audience of a real diverse audience, just in terms of where people came from, where they heard about the show. We had a lot of Forestburg subscribers. We had a lot of folks who were fans of this particular drag troupe, which usually performs in Milford, but they did their show in Forestburg, and so we actually had a lot of folks come from Milford for this event. So it was just neat to have people in front of us who were, and we had plenty of JFF folks too. You know, I sort of asked at the beginning that I had you hear about the show, and the JFF component was pretty strong, actually. We got some potential new volunteers. One of the things we did for this event was send an email blast out to our whole, 1,500, 1,700 email subscribers and say, if you'd like to see the show for free, come volunteer at it. So we actually got somebody to come volunteer who wasn't already a station volunteer, so we got a new station volunteer. We had a meeting to talk about renovating the studios. We built a survey for the, quote, end users, the people that use the studio every day of the week, to see, their likes and their dislikes, find out what they would change, and kind of gave them a clean slate to do it. Once we come up with a final plan for the way that the rooms are going to be arranged, we'll send that out to contractors. And once we come up with a final plan for the equipment that that we feel we're going to need, those will be sent out to engineers for bids. What we're planning to do to discuss the results of the end user survey is hold a general meeting for all volunteers. That'll be the main focus of it. I'm sure lots of other stuff will come up. We plan to sort of have a little, each staff member is going to kind of lead a discussion. Jason's going to lead a discussion on, just kind of brainstorming and spitballing programming ideas. I'm going to talk about the renovations, and Andrea's going to talk about sort of deeper volunteer engagement. The 25th anniversary committee, we already discussed this, but just to let you know, the meeting is going to happen at Hills the same day as our upcoming farm to table dinner. We just sort of figured we've got the space, let's put it to the most possible use. We have several events coming up. It sort of seems like it's event season. There's an open house first Saturday in October in Jeffersonville. We're doing our farm to table dinner the 18th. We're doing a Halloween party. Remains to be seen if we're going to collaborate with another area organization to do that, or if we're going to do our own.
Jill's not getting her calls responded to.
I just read a bad thing about Dancing Cat, actually, so I think.
You read a bad thing?
Yeah.
It was posted on a website, somebody shared it. They did a article on the top 100 places
Health
with
violations.
health violations,
Oh.
and in the Hudson Valley, and the number one place was it?
So there's going to be an open house.
By Liberty Diner.
Yeah.
That was on the list.
Liberty Diner, Dancing Cat's
Really?
Early Bird Cookery, by the way, was nowhere on the
You
list.
were not on the list.
Dancing Cat's on the top
That's
list.
not, we don't serve food.
Right, yeah.
The alcohol kills germs.
We have another open house in Honesdale in early December, and our holiday show, which is, Barbara, you're meeting with Maureen to talk about that.
I'm meeting with Maureen and Jill on Sunday. Anybody who can make it, please join us.
Okay, that's at Cafe Divine, what time?
Well, actually, Cafe Divine is
It's
apparently
closed.
Oh, that's right.
So we're gonna meet at Pepino's on Sunday at 11:30.
For our vacation?
The other vacation.
I figured.
Yeah.
I was in town the other day.
The only thing missing from that list is the Messiah sing-along.
Right, we don't have a
Part of
date
Yeah, well,
nailed down for that yet,
Mhm.
but we're looking for the 21st. And Toss is exploring some options, and I sent an email to Mike asking him to get in touch with the college
You're
when
not
he gets
interested.
back.
I love them.
Okay, Messiah, 12/21. Our next pledge drive starts November 7th.
That soon?
I know. Well, here's the thing is we had originally thought to start it, I think, a week or maybe even 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I thought
But we looked a little more at it
Yeah.
and I thought that, you know, if we do our end of year, if we start our holiday season ask before other people, we may catch people before they give all their money away to other people. It also puts it a little further away from our end of year push, so it doesn't feel like we're just hammering people. It also gives us an opportunity in our pre-drive mailing to promote all the events coming up, including the dinner, including the Halloween party, and then all the other events for the
Just a
season.
music sale.
Yeah, music
Music
sale.
sale. Oh yeah,
Oh,
geez,
that's-
sorry.
Yeah, isn't that the 22nd?
November
or
22nd.
something?
Sorry, John, it's on my calendar. Sorry, neglectful omission.
Hey, you know, just an aside on that, on WAMC, I'm not being a traitor, but you know, I drive down that way and I pick it up.
Okay.
So on WAMC, they had an announcement that they got a challenge or a grant from the Lennox Foundation to fix their broadcast studio. And so it was specifically for their broadcast studio, and they're saying Lennox Foundation has given them $25,000 if they can
Right.
raise X amount of dollars in their lockbox, you know, they have a lockbox and they do some pre-donation collection. So I just want to let you know that if we may want to reach out to the Lennox
Lennox
Foundation
Foundation,
and
note
say,
to
hey,
self,
you know, our broadcast studio could use a
Lennox,
shot in the arm.
Massachusetts?
Lennox,
Like
just
the operating
Lennox,
system.
heating system, had house HVAC
Heating,
system,
yeah.
heating and
Yeah,
cooling
air
systems.
conditioning.
Wait,
I don't know who does the foundation, but it could be Lennox. It was
which
Lennox.
is not Linux, L-I-N-U-X?
Linux is the
Linux.
Linux.
That's
No,
open
that's
source.
a
Linux
software
Foundation
company.
are they gonna
Linux.
have?
Yeah.
The
I'm
freeware.
sure,
No, they
I'm
do.
sure
There's
he
a
said
Linux
Lennox,
Foundation.
and I think it could either be
Lennox.
China or it could be the Lennox HVAC system.
Whatever
Yeah.
is very close to
Yeah,
Lennox.
yeah.
So it's
So-
Massachusetts,
Yeah, okay.
Okay, neat,
It
thanks,
was the
man.
foundation you're welcome, just because I remember hearing it, thinking, hey.
This sort of feels like minutia, but lapsed donors. Last pledge drive, I tried a thing. I've always known the pre-drive mailings to go in two batches. A batch of first-class letters goes to everyone who's given us, say, more than $75, and then a bulk mailing goes to everyone who's kind of given us less. And the bill for stamps is sort of outrageous, and the amount of effort involved to kind of match the special letter with the special envelope that has the name printed in it. It was a lot of work. So I tried to streamline it by basically sending everybody a bulk, and the response was phenomenal. And I think
Phenomenal,
that's
good or bad?
good, real good. Great turnout of mailing response, just as good, if not better, than when we split it up into the two mailings. I'd like to try a thing this time. Everyone will get the bulk again, but lapsed donors will get a much more personalized, much more hand-addressed, and nicely written note in their letter to try and bring them back into the fold. And last pledge drive, the goals for new members and new sound supporters were really helpful, and we met them, and it gave people another kind of reason to pledge. And so I'd like to work with the DCOC to kind of set those again for this coming drive.
Let's have a goal for lapsed as well.
Okay.
But we still have to, our goal is $50,000. It's
So
not a
the
number.
cash goal is $50,000.
Okay.
Any questions?
What can we do? I think, let's at least vote a resolution of thanks to Jim and
Yes,
Maggie for the work that they put into.
yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I move that we write them a note and express our appreciation.
Oh, my God, Jim sold those.
Mr. Raffle tickets.
Those raffle tickets almost single-handedly.
Mr. Raffle ticket.
I mean, it was only 1,500? I thought it was probably more.
It was $1,500, but he sold $1,000 worth by
Oh, my
himself.
God, he
I
was
second
amazing.
your motion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, no, any discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed, all right. A quick note about the Bethel Woods collaboration, which is moving forward. 3 trustees were tabling at the event gallery to follow up. Kathy Geary did an interview with one of the cafe artists. Glenn interviewed Tom Chapin, a long interview, and we had permission to record the concert with Greg Castro doing it. Piece of cake, he had no complaints, and Tom will look at our edits of that, and if he okays it, we'll be able to broadcast it at a time that the staff would feel acceptable. Interesting was that people made a lot of comments about the station. They knew the station, and they had suggestions, and one person went, and a person who was the founder or director of New Hope, Gershowitz?
Dan
Berkowitz, major player in the county. He remembered us, and he remembered the letter that we explained what was going on, and he thanked us for writing the letter.
Well, he basically said that you nearly lost me. He's been a contributor to the station from the very beginning. And, I mean, it was very, very good how many people came up to us who were long-term supporters and who dealt specifically with the issues that we had a year and a half ago. And that it was critical to them that they were very close to just giving up their support. And that you had reached out and sent them a letter that acknowledged the problems and that explained what they were and what steps were being taken was very important, as was seeing as their tabling. That they felt like seeing as their tabling was really a message to the community. I was amazed how many people who were former WJFF volunteers are volunteers at Bethel Woods.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was like everybody
And
who
there
was.
was one woman really keen to volunteer, and Andrea has that follow-up. We did about 10 surveys, they're in the box.
Yes, I have a
And,
record.
was there
The
any?
other thing that happened is that 2 long-term members who are chief supporters to the Sunday Chamber Music Series, and right under Robin Gary in terms of giving funds for it, are very interested in collaboration with taping that series. And asked to,
having spoken, having wanted to work with Gandalf.
correct, right.
So is Kathy following up on
No, I think Gandalf is the one he knows those people and knows Kathy too, but I haven't mentioned that to him. I will.
Are they collaborating with Gandalf?
I think we need to make sure that programming stuff, Jason's looped in on that stuff.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
okay. In fact, I should fill him in on doing that. It was easier and more pleasant than I thought it was gonna be, because you're inside. That makes it, if you're outside, it makes it, all the materials that Andrea had put together were perfect. I wish we'd had something simple to give everybody. You know, we don't have a flyer.
That's how we met Peter Sharp at a tabling event, right, Peter? Came over? Chop parade.
Suffering. But we really need a thing of this is WJFF. Our pamphlet is not, we don't have it anymore. And it would be nice if, I don't know. Has
Maggie's
anybody-
working on it.
Yeah.
I
And the
think we
volun,
talked about a big run at the development committee, a big run of the soundings, so that we would have soundings to
Right.
distribute
Yeah.
at these events and also throughout the county
Yeah.
in different locations.
And Kathy has asked them for permission to do 3 programs, and I sent a note out to the listserv just saying, check all the concerts, and they seem, there was no problem, so I don't think they're gonna complain about our being there.
I have tickets to the 26th, so I'd like to do it again in October.
I have
to the-
tickets for that date as well.
Okay, so Sonia, maybe we can get the things, or if you wanna do it with us then, or the materials, whatever.
You know, I think if you go and table there, I don't know if you should be required to buy a ticket for the concert. I don't know if volunteers want to do that. That's something to
No, I mean,
consider.
I would
We
have-
also took the little slideshow thing,
Right.
and I think Andrea said we have a second one now, and that's nice. People watch that, of all the pictures of
Right.
stuff that's going on.
So in terms of the 26th, because that's close,
Yeah.
who would we have to talk to get permission?
Uh,
Do you wanna?
I'll,
you wanna make
Elizabeth,
the
I have her
contact?
name. I have her name, and I'll do that.
Midge, you were there last time?
I
On the
did
third-
look
Yeah,
at
so
that.
you know the drill.
Yeah, and it's,
You don't have to be there at 5:30.
no, I know we don't, but,
So-
we'll get the stuff all together or whatever.
I would just ask that you guys follow up and find out if it's okay or not to sell merchandise, because I think that's a good spot
I
to
put that
sell.
in my thank you letter.
Okay.
I said we liked it, and I told how many surveys, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, could we sell
Yeah.
like caps or
Yeah,
something?
go back.
Right.
I'd like to urge us to not sell materials, but rather to sell memberships.
Right.
And give the materials, because then we have those people in our database and for life. You know, but if you just
And
simply
that's-
sell it then they put it on their hat and they go away.
We got a membership that way, because she said, oh, these bags are nice.
Yeah.
And I said, it comes with a membership, so.
Well,
I mean, I think that that's a strategy that
something-
we should
Well, I
discuss.
mean,
can we
it's,
move
yeah,
on,
we
because we
should,
have
but-
still a bunch of things more.
We do.
We've
Looks
had
like
the
we're at
program
end of the list.
committee, John reported on that, a bit about liaison. Liaison Advisory Board, we've got that done. John says there's no correspondence. The tower we discussed. The technology and fact group, is there more to add on that, Adam? No, I don't think so. How are people knowing they should do that survey? Or do that, you know? Is there an on-air promo about it or something?
Which survey?
With you, it has, there's several designs for
Yeah,
the studio.
the studio survey went out to the volunteer listserv. It's also big, bright, hanging in the Jeffersonville studio. Can't miss it.
When
There's
did that go out? Because
last Thursday
Yeah, I saw it.
in the office newsletter.
But not to us.
Yeah.
It was in notes from the office with the link.
Oh, okay.
Well, I can say that I missed it.
I missed it.
And so maybe we wanna do something that's directly to the, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I know I missed it.
Just the link.
Did
Yeah.
that have drawings from Don Downs?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll open that. I guess I
Okay.
didn't see it.
Are we up to new business?
We're finishing old business, okay?
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Ann? What? Do you have an old business?
I
The
do,
te-
old businesses related to the broadcasting technology group. When I listened to the tape, you discussed the offer that we got via our lawyer in relation to the translator.
Everybody knows what that is, that's sick.
Well,
We should talk about it.
yeah,
Wait, hang on,
absolutely.
Is it on this report that got sent around?
It is. I mean,
It's right there, the translator.
yeah, it's there, right? So Adam you had sent around a email from our lawyer in Washington. And they wanted to increase the power for their translator in Beacon, and they were asking us to switch out our W233H.
Or 94.5.
Yeah, and 94.5. I mean, the thing that struck me when I read that, and I did a little research, because it sounded to me like you were discussing that WFUV wanted to do something, but the FCC application is for FUV to voluntarily surrender their, that channel.
Translator.
Yeah, that translator to a different station. And it just, so on the specifics, it's not FUV wanting to come into our area, it's another station who wants to do it. And I really would like to speak very strongly against the idea that we would switch out our translator and have to alter our, I mean, one of the things that I mentioned at the development committee, we discussed the idea that we don't seem to publicize 94.5 at all, and that it's not in our materials that we send out, it's not on our correspondence, it's not on our logo, it's the majority of, it's not, we don't say 94.5 over the air anymore, and this is a translator that we've had for, I don't know, 20 years, 15 years. So the recommendation that we were discussing is that it needs to be reintroduced so that it could be more publicized in relation to the idea that a lot of statistics are showing that our Monticello numbers are very low in terms of membership. And this might be because that translator was put in there specifically to deal with the shadow issues for the listeners in Monticello. So I guess two things. One, people do listen on 94.5, who I guess historically have in Monticello, but we haven't really publicized it very much. We haven't been talking about it at all, and I'm not sure when that happened or why it happened, or, I mean, that used to be part of what we said, 90.5 and 94.5 in Monticello. So does anybody have, you know, because this is connected, you know, if we believe that this is something that we did believe, that this was something that was useful for reaching out to the Monticello residents, I would urge us to not consider for the price of, some change, changing over our channel and losing the 94.5.
So what I'm wondering is if we were to change it from 94.5 to say 90.3,
Yeah.
it would still exist in Monticello and it would still be
Mhm.
accessible to people in Monticello at the same power level. So people in Monticello would just need to tune to a different frequency instead of 94.5. So we wouldn't lose any of the coverage that we have in Monticello by changing channels.
You could say the same thing about 90.5.
Sure.
Yeah, but that would not convince me that we should give up 90.5. I don't see what we gain by it.
Yep.
And I caught 94.5 when I was driving up from the city last night. It sounds like it's an oldies channel. I wasn't getting it very well, but I'm assuming that that's the one because when I looked it up, it's a clear channel station that does oldies.
So the other question I have is that we put the 94.5 up 15 years ago, and our Monticello numbers are down.
And we don't publicize it at all. I've looked through all our materials. There is nothing written on it that says 94.5. And if you look on our webpage, 94.5 isn't there. And if you listen to our broadcast logos, 94.5 is not there. So at the development committee, we actually made a recommendation that because it's allowable, we have a legal ID. And we say W233AH. What does that mean to anybody? It doesn't mean anything. So I think we used to just say W233AH, that's 94.5 in Monticello. And you would actually be telling people where to listen. So I do see these things as combined, but I don't really see why we would want to change our channel.
Well, the first thing about their letter that I didn't like, in their letter, they said, we'd like you to do this, but if you don't do it, we can probably force you to do it. So that, well,
They can petition, but that doesn't mean that the.
no, it doesn't mean it's gonna happen, but there was kind of a little threat there. I didn't like to hear that in there. But the question is, I thought it was that FUV, they got a new tower, or they're gonna expand their tower on Mount Beacon, and that their expanded signal would interfere with our 95.3. That's where they wanna get us out of there.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, but I think what Ann found when she dug in was that
Right.
it's not WFUV. It seems that FUV is going to voluntarily give that translator away.
They may be trading for something else.
Yeah.
I don't know that,
Oh.
So it's gonna be a
but-
different radio station on that,
Right, it's a different
on that
radio
frequency.
station, and,
Well, the more higher up on the dial, I mean, the 94 is supposedly a lot better place to be in the dial than below 90 or 90.
well, it's because it's in the non-public area, kind of up there near the commercial end.
Okay, so are you saying that our station ID should include,
I'm saying two things. I'm saying in relation to the broadcast committee and the facilities committee was considering and what Adam had sent to us, that I would urge us to not get involved with switching our channel, and I would really challenge the idea that they could petition the FCC. If you look at the FCC regs in relation to competing applications, when two entities have an application in front of them, the list of the things that they consider in giving preference to one or the other, it's things like community location.
I didn't mean to say that they were gonna do this. I said it's kind of
Yeah.
a bullying tactic.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I agree. I
So,
agree.
that's not exactly a friendly
Right.
situation there if they're trying to bully us, so.
well, has anybody proposed that we respond positively to this request from these people?
The only reason I could think of to do that is to pick up a couple extra dollars, but that's the only reason.
Okay,
On the other hand, if we're talking about going up against Clear Channel in a legal battle, we might want to think about that twice.
I'm not sure what you mean,
What was it?
the legal battle. I mean,
I don't know.
What do you think
I'm not
about,
sure either.
about that number? I mean, well, what is our 94.3? Why do they want that
That's
particular number?
because that's the frequency they're broadcasting on from kind of a ways away, and it
From
sound-
Beacon?
yeah, from the top of a mountain in Beacon, and it
Mount
sounds
Beacon.
like it's there's the they want to raise the power of that transmitter in Beacon, and in doing so, they would likely infringe upon the radius of our 94.5.
So when people who think they're getting WJFF in Monticello will be getting the Beacon station?
Potentially.
No, the
Well, why would we wanna
FCC
do
would
that?
stop them from interfering with.
Right, so the
our
FCC will
signals,
stop them, so they've asked us to change channels so that they don't interfere with us, and we can say no.
And I'm speaking in favor of saying no.
I like to say no.
And there's, you know, if we say no, that's the end of it, is my.
If we say no, they can petition, and if they're successful in their petition, they still have to pay for us to change channels, but sounds like the chance of success, based on some of the factors that the FCC weighs, might not be so high for them.
But
So-
Okay,
they
do we
got
need to
lawyers.
have a motion?
I think we do.
We need to have a motion. Someone needs to make the motion. I don't make motions. Motion to decline the offer, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, have they made a formal offer?
The communication was from our lawyer, so
Just
I
tell our
believe what the
lawyer.
motion would be is to communicate through our lawyer. I don't remember the name.
Harvey Schubert Bearer.
Yes, Haley, Betty, and Potts. Okay.
Dewey, never mind.
That we're not interested in the offer?
That we're not
Well-
interested in the offer, and thank you very much.
Who writes that letter and who signs it?
They communicated to me.
Yeah, so I would just email her, Melody Virtue back and say, hi Melody, our board voted last night to say yes or say no.
Okay, so we have that motion by Ann, seconded by,
I'll second
second Barbara. Any discussion? All in favor?
Okay.
Anybody opposed? No? Okay, carries, that's good. All right.
Are we done? I gotta
I
go.
have one more motion.
We have a motion, we've got to have the motion about the grant, the application to the very first thing. It's, Ann would like permission to apply for,
Because I lost that piece of paper in the midst of all of
it's,
this. It's basically, I'll give you the background while John's searching for the motion. The motion is.
funds from the night will be requested to support WJFF off-site broadcast, both via taped and live, or musical and other community events. The Knight Foundation prototype grants fund up to $35,000.
Okay, but that's not, that's the background.
The motion says, a motion
Motion.
to approve a grant application by Ann Larson on behalf of the board to the Wave Farm Media Arts Grants Program.
Wave Farm, isn't that the
Wait
people?
Farm, that's WGXC.
Yep,
Yeah, QXC.
well, that's one part
That's
of
their
what they
right,
do.
that's their, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a background very quickly. NISCA, when I contacted them, as we were just missing the deadline for their June application for grants, which historically, we've gotten NISCA grants for general operating. The program officer suggested that I contact Wave Farm because they do mini grants, which they consider planning grants. And that's what this would be doing. And what the exact issues related, what the grant would be for, would be in whatever way we can get planning help in doing our NISCA application. Okay, whatever way they offer. What I added as amendment was for also to have approval to apply to the, oh God, this is terrible.
Wave Farm.
Not Wave Farm. Please read my message.
Lennox Foundation?
No. There's an idea. Kevin, help me here. The Knight Foundation. Yes, exactly. The Knight Foundation for their media innovation grants. These are grants that go up to $35,000, and that is the area where we would be looking for something specific that would be innovative. And I suggest that we apply for something related to off-site taping and live broadcast of community events, and including musical events. So it would be a specific, somehow, something innovative.
Oral history.
Oral history project.
history with the youth.
Okay, but I need to have the approval. That deadline is November 1. The Wave Farm is October 1.
Wow.
I move that we approve and to apply for those grants.
Second.
Seconded by Martin and Barbara. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much for finding a few
I
grants.
gotta go.
All right. I think we have to look at if there's anything we must deal with before we we close. Because I think this has been a long meeting. Thank you so much for hanging in, you know. And I regret this time that I did not schedule the executive committee meeting. Without having the executive committee, it's harder for me to do all the agenda things, but we'll do better next time. We talked about having a party or a social gathering. I have no strong feelings about it. I think if you all want to come to my house and have breakfast one Saturday morning, I have lots of eggs and bacon if you eat it. But we don't have to do it. Does anybody have a sense about that? I don't even want to make a motion. We could have a public gathering at my house and anybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry, children, spouses, exes could come, or nothing. Please give me a sense.
Sonia, my feeling on that is if you have a notion to put an invite out to people to come and join you for a cup of coffee and breakfast someday, that's fine. And if people come, they come, and if they don't come, they don't come.
Not official meeting.
It's, and
Not
it's
an
also
official,
not,
it's a social thing.
it's not the board of trustees,
It's not.
Announcing,
a
yeah,
place
having a
to
meeting.
say who you can invite to your
Right,
house.
yeah.
And,
So I
you-
think we're kind of passing
Yeah.
on the party. Any feelings? Okay.
Can
Is
I
there,
bring in one
Kevin.
item before we bail out?
yes.
The boat.
Oh, here's what happened with the boat. We had a person who knew this boat because he rode this boat, this
Yes.
$15,000
Wait, we got
tax
an offer.
It's
write-off.
the
got an
ocean
offer.
eroded.
We have an offer. Who
We
is
have
it?
an offer. And I suggest we take it.
Well, here was, well, I went ahead with something else.
Another boat?
No, because
no.
I asked someone who's experienced with eBay to see
No,
if she
forget it.
would take this and put it on eBay and try to sell it. We also have a Rolls Royce and we have a scooter.
A Rolls Royce?
Don't we have a Rolls Royce?
Oh, yeah, through the car
Because-
talk program, someone donated it. We don't have it, it's already sold, we're gonna get the money for it.
All right, well, I think we ought to think twice about that, because a couple of people have talked to me about the car talk tax things, and it never worked out the way they thought.
They're
They-
always sort of surprised that the station doesn't get a ton of money.
Yes, and I think we
little
should,
money.
you know, this is,
I
if
think
it's
for
a
the amount of
junkie-
work that's involved on our end,
Yeah.
versus the amount of money that comes in, it's totally worth
So
it.
Kevin, what was the
How much
offer on
was
the
it?
boat?
I don't know yet.
I don't know. Laura?
Anyway, if we don't move this boat soon,
Wait, listen.
Is it over $500?
Okay, here's the thing. My husband has offered 2,000 for the vote, and I recuse myself from any further part of this discussion.
Okay, good. Well,
It's worth a lot more than it's worth a lot more than 2,000.
Do you think you're ever going to see
well,
that?
I
may
think we
never
have
sell
to
it.
make an attempt to try to sell it
See what
publicly.
happens.
We
always say things in our house are worth more.
I'm sorry, but I think that it's too ingrown for us to do this with something that was donated to us.
okay,
We
but,
put it in the silent auction at the,
best offer over.
at the farm to table.
That's
We'll
not
bring it
enough
up, we'll hold it
people.
up there.
No, we will
Hold
not
it
hold
up.
it up there.
Less than
eBay.
$2,000.
eBay. Sonia, you connected with somebody who does an eBay thing. Why can't we put it on eBay first?
Let's try that
I
first.
Let's
think,
try
let's
It's a
try
very
that.
accomplished person who does lots of eBay.
Let's do that
I'm just
first,
moving ahead
and
with
then
that.
see.
And
And we
I'm
know that we have, we have an offer.
Yes.
So we have an offer, unsolicited offer, from somebody who's related to one of our board members, but let's put it on eBay and see what we get. And if we don't get anything better,
But
Just to quote Game of Thrones, winter is coming.
winter is coming. I got it.
all right, is there anything else we have to do? Oh, Andrea, if you have something, absolutely. Go for it.
I just want to plant the seed with the strategic planning. There was the homework, and then the next thing said follow-up. The next thing on your, I'll say what you wrote up, said follow-up about what they wanted.
Yeah.
They wanted members and DOT contact and stuff. One of the things on that list was vision statement, and I don't think we have one, so,
We discussed that we didn't have a vision
and they're
statement.
fine
Yeah,
with
we
that?
don't.
Well, that's, maybe
Well,
that'll
we
come
work
out
on
as a
that when we
strategic
do
plan.
the, okay, okay.
At the Hills, we talked about
Yeah, we
vision
did.
statement, what
Right,
the other
we
kind
had
of
a couple
mission
of different
statement.
ideas, yeah.
all this.
Codify it.
We have
People
five
don't need to
statements.
have a vision statement.
We have two more words. Tasa has one word, and then Barbara has the last word, and then we're out of here.
But could I,
Briefly.
Another amendment?
just want to make sure.
Wait,
sorry,
oh,
I'm
Tasa.
sorry. I
Tasa
apologize.
and Barbara, and that's it.
You go, before I lose my.
I'm talking now, wait. no.
Wait.
Go.
I was
The-
responding to them.
The list of things, I'm just looking at my notes and I didn't see a check where the list of things that they want us to send you wanna wait on that, or we got a nice package
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
outreach
Yeah.
thing, the survey and the,
Yeah.
okay.
If you need any help putting that together, let me know. A lot of that stuff was just, oh yeah, I know
Yeah, I
where I
know,
can
we know
find all
where
that
to
stuff.
find it.
so.
Yeah,
Okay, Ann,
I was just going to say that both mission statement and underwriting were somehow communicated to us as being discussed at this meeting, and neither of them were, so can we
Right.
put that as a priority in the
Yeah,
next meeting?
Yeah, top of the next agenda.
what I'm doing on the mission statement, I asked Valerie, who was in charge of that from the January meeting, to put together the mission statement that we worked on then, to send it out again. She didn't get it. You'll get it now, and we'll put it on the agenda, and we'll talk about the underwriting at the next meeting, because we have found the policy from 90, but we were having a work group on it that never really met.
Can we
Barbara?
Can we send
No,
the
wait a
original
sec.
mission statement with the tweaked one, whatever? Another one, when Valerie sends it out, we tweaked one and we went over it.
Yes, we'll send both of them,
Both
the
of them,
tweaked one
yes.
and the original.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, a while back, we voted to reallocate our Vanguard account holdings.
Right.
I just wanna let you guys all know that that has not yet happened. And we've got a organizational resolution that came in the mail today that will allow us to, go get notarized on our head as far as who's got signing authority on this account. But we will then move forward to do what we agreed back 6 months
We
ago we
need
were
this
gonna do.
now, John, the resolution?
I don't,
What do you think?
Yes, because
we
then
put
we
it in?
we can also approve it separate from the minutes, and then we just need the signatures, and we don't have to wait another month.
Did we
So this is
adjourn
different
yet?
than the one we,
Not
no, we
yet.
haven't adjourned yet.
We haven't adjourned
This
yet.
is for Vanguard.
Old business.
Signatures. Remember
So-
last time we just got it all done and everybody got it signed, and then we have a new treasurer and new people on the board?
well, right, yeah.
All right, so who do we want to have as having authority to, tell Vanguard to make a change in anything?
You,
You,
Treasurer.
Barbara, and,
And Sonia?
President.
okay.
Okay, so I move that I be given the authority along with Sonia to have
May I
signing
make that
authority.
motion so that you're not making the motion?
Yes,
Whatever.
but yourself. You don't want to motion yourself.
Those rules, those rules.
Oh, so Ann makes the motion, and who is seconding
Just one
it?
more facet,
Okay,
and that's
can-
the electronic access.
What?
Electronic, yeah.
If you
I just
wanna-
wanna know what
if you
this
wa-
motion
If
is,
you want to go
actually.
print out a report from the account,
From the
then that's
website.
the electronic access.
Yeah, that's,
Okay,
And that Adam should have.
okay.
But he's not authorized to make trades.
right.
He's only authorized to.
Get print out,
Look at
get-
and
look at-
Sonia and
reports.
Barbara are authorized to
Right.
print out.
So I'll make a motion that with respect to the Vanguard investment account, the two signatures approved by this board are the president, Sonia Hedlund, and the treasurer, Barbara Demarest. And the person who is allowed to have electronic access for this account is the general manager, Adam Weinreich. Is that beautiful?
I just,
Beautiful?
a
You
tear.
love it. I came down,
Just-
it's very moving, I know.
Okay, so you've made the
Stage.
motion, and it's seconded by,
A second.
by Martin, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, does that, then we can do it.
And then I make a motion.
Then we approve the
No,
portion
no,
of the
no,
minutes.
no, to approve.
The
I know, and I need to go.
Where's it?
I have a crazy day tomorrow, but then I'm speaking at the Westchester Municipal Officials
You'll just
meeting
love it.
tomorrow night in Aldrich, and I'm like, oh my God. Anyway,
So the
so
motion is to approve that
to
portion of the
approve
minutes.
this portion of the minutes now, so that our secretary can give a certified copy of this resolution that's been approved to Barbara Demarest and Sonia, so they can submit it to the Vanguard account.
I second it. Any discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
A motion to pass, a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make it.
I make it, and Barbara seconds it, and we all agree.
We did it.
Oh, my God.
Bye.
Bye, thanks,
Bye,
Pat.
Pat.